Got it.
Acabou de entrar no live stream do YouTube também, tá? Só para avisar. Eu vou começar o recording aqui pelo Zoom.
Vamos entrar no mute, então.
Eu vou mutar todo mundo agora.
Uma boa ideia.
Forçosamente.
Rapidinho, o Roberto está pedindo autorização aqui pelo dele para gravar o computador. Eu não sei se...
Aí é com o nosso mestre técnico.
O Roberto está querendo gravar? Não entendi.
Sim, o Roberto ele vai gravar o evento, né? Daquela questão da segurança que a gente falou.
Perfeito.
Got it.
Ok, vou mutar todo mundo então, hein?
Ok.
1, 2, 3 e...
Now shut up.
Lembrando, Rosângela também está como co-host, você pode se desmutar a qualquer momento, tá? Agora só eu e o Lúcio, mas eu já vou ficar quieto aqui.
Vou falar a hora de começar.
Certo. Só para lembrar, gente, que eu não consigo desmutar ninguém, tá? Só avisando, eu não sou host.
Cristiana mediadora, tem que poder fazer isso, né?
A Adriana que tá me desmutando aqui, porque eu não tenho poder, não. Tô sem poderes.
Ah,
Tirar meus poderes.
Paulo, se quiser passar meus poderes para a Cristiane, meu negócio aqui é os troubles, aí eu fico aqui só tentando arranjar quem vai ajudar para resolver os problemas. E que não vão aparecer nenhum, né? Então, eu vou ficar aqui de braço cruzado, só assistir. Né, Pamela? Na boa. Tudo bem aí, Fernanda, com o Roberto?
Não, o dele não, mas o meu começou a gravar. Eu acho que o Paulo me autorizou. Mas aí eu vou gravar aqui no meu... Eu espero que não atrapalhe, mas...
Na verdade, eu comecei a gravar pelo Zoom agora, certo?
Uhum.
E...
Ai, você que está gravando? Porque o meu aqui está escrito gravando.
Isso, aparece para todo mundo, só para todo mundo saber, né, que tá gravando. E também deve aparecer, não sei se aparece para vocês, né? No topo aparece live on YouTube. Não sei se aparece. Legal.
Mas e o do Roberto, que toda vez ele clica, diz, peça ao anfitrião, ele tem que fazer alguma coisa?
Ah, eu não estou recebendo nada aqui, cara, do Roberto.
Ai, não. Peraí.
Cadê ele? Achei ele. Fez o desmute, Márcio e Eline.
Vocês podem desmutar eles se vocês quiserem.
Eu fiz isso, mas o Márcio está falando se eles não podem ser co-host, para eles próprios se desmutarem.
Tá bom.
Esse desmutar tá legal, gostei desse verbo. Ao invés de falar cheirar, desmute.
Na verdade, eu não estou nem achando o Márcio aqui, para falar a verdade. Deixa eu ver.
Agora é.
Opa, aqui.
Achei, eu também. A Sheilene também. Ok. 57.
Eu também não ouço ninguém mais.
Perfeito, eu ouvi você, Lúcio. Você é a única pessoa que eu devo ouvir agora.
Obrigado.
São 3 horas. Podemos começar, Lúcio.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the 2021 80 Toronto Spirit Weekend Symposium. My name is Lúcio Bertoldo and I will be your host for today's event. It's my great pleasure to be part of those amazing 2 days of great learning with all of you. In the name of Joana de Angelis, Spirit Study Group, Paulo de Tarso, Spirit Study Group, Rest on the Way, and Toronto Spirit Society, we thank you very, very much for being here with us today. Before we start, we need to provide some information to our public. We would like to request everyone's attention, please. First, place your cell phone on silent mode. Done? Very good. Thank you. Second, your Zoom microphone will be off for now and it will be open later on. On the bottom of your computer or cell phone screen, you will see the option chat. You can communicate with our moderators using the Zoom chat. and they will be collecting the questions and providing the necessary information. 4. On the bottom of your screen, computer, or cell phone, you will see design a globe and interpretation. It will be here where you will change the channel for Portuguese or English language. Today, our first lecture will be in Portuguese, and the following 2 lectures it will be in English. On the first lecture, to the ones who want to listen the lecture in English, please click on Interpretation, choose English, and click on Mute Original Audio. The following 2 lectures will be in English. The ones that want to listen in Portuguese, please click on Interpretation, choose Portuguese, and click on Mute Original Audio. In case you feel comfortable with both languages, Portuguese and English, you don't need to use the language switch. We would like to do a test. You will hear Marcio's voice, and he is the translator right now in Portuguese. Very good. Thank you very much. For sure, the 2 years working organization, this event, give us a great sense of accomplishment seeing you all with us right now. Thank you. Thank you very much. This year, the entire event is happening on a virtual format in order to keep everyone safe. Hopefully, in 2023, we will be able to hug everyone. Let's continue to do our part, following the health procedures guidelines, using masks, washing frequently our hands, keeping a physical distance if you are not with your family members. We will start our event with a prayer, as we always do in every spiritual activity. For our initial prayer, we would like to invite Miss Andrea. Welcome, Miss Andrea Faria.
Close your eyes, take a deep and long breath, relax your shoulder, and bring your thoughts to a beautiful God's creation. So, our Father of infinite love, kindness, and mercy, give us a peace, harmony, serenity, to be with an open mind and heart, that we can pay close attention to the study of these days, that we can absorb all the knowledge transmitted by our dear brothers who will kindly be here with us in this symposium. May the good spirits inspire two speakers with a great messages. Also, inspire all of us to put in action all the learnings of today. Also, protect everyone that's working and attend these events. Lord, thank you for this amazing opportunity. So be it. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrea, for the prayer bringing us all in such a great mood and peace. The Toronto Spirit Weekend started in 2007 through a shy idea to unite the spirit centers in Toronto area in order to spread the spiritual teachings to the outside of the spirit centers. On every TSW symposium, we work hard to innovate, and great ideas have been taking place. Other spirit centers have been emerging and uniting to the TSW. In this way, the spiritist has been slowly conquering other hearts. After all spirit centers have been the same goal, to bring Jesus' teachings to help us become better people today and tomorrow, and it's always better doing it together. The Toronto Spirit Weekend is a biennial meeting where worldwide speakers come together to facilitate workshops about spiritism. We are dedicated to present the latest research and thought studies by spiritists, which include discussions on various concepts and practice of spiritism, as well addressing the scientific aspects of those studies in a simple and objective manner, with absolute fidelity from higher spirits, teaching with great objective that information comes to all that are interested. For more information about the TSW, please visit our website. There will be find the history of previous themes discussed on our symposium, as well as videos of some of our speakers. So now let's start about the 2021 8th Toronto Spirit Weekend theme. How can we build a good relationship? Let's find out together.
How can we expect love from someone else when we are not open to love? Self-love, love others, and love God are intrinsically bonded emotional experiences. Self-discovery is a non-transferable and urgent process of finding God in us. It is also a way to develop a strong and true relationship with others. The 8th Toronto Spiritist Weekend is on a mission to rebuild our understanding about relationships. Come and let's learn together.
So here we are, excited and anxious to hear our speakers and learning together. How can we actually build a good and healthy relationship? Here is our event scheduled for today and tomorrow. What is the family type? Spiritual or biological? My beloved kids, adoption. A very important information to our public now. To our great audience that is participating through Zoom, you will have the opportunity to ask a question to our speakers based on the theme that he or she is delivering. So send your questions using the chat, and our volunteers will be collecting and analyzing them based on the nature of the questions if it wasn't already answered during the lecture. Our moderators will contact you and ask if you want to ask your question to the speakers. In case of positive answer, your microphone will be then open, so you can only ask your question. Our moderators will help you on that. So, our first lecture is with Andre Moreira, son of Geraldo Dacio and Maria Madalena. Andre is going to talk about a very important topic, which is based in our inner transformation. This topic, knowing yourself, self-discovery in a non-transfer and urgent process to find God in us. Andre is going to deliver his lecture in Portuguese to our public. Now it's the moment for you to switch to Portuguese language if you want to listen in Portuguese. Andre, the space is all yours. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Obrigado. Uma boa tarde a todos. É uma alegria estar com vocês. Desde já eu quero agradecer a esta família canadense espírita, sobretudo os amigos de Toronto, que trago com muito carinho no meu coração. E desde já pedir desculpas a vocês, porque estou muito gripado, com sinusite. Achei que não ia dar conta de fazer, mas quero fazer. E falei com o Márcio, vamos como for possível. Então, a gente foca no que é essencial, que é a mensagem, e segue. Esse tema que nos foi proposto é um tema fundamental dentro do conhecimento espírita. O tema do autodescobrimento ou da autoconsciência. O espiritismo é uma ciência e é uma filosofia de consequências religiosas. E como ciência, nos dá a compreender a nossa estrutura da vida, das leis naturais, enquanto filosofia nos faz compreender-nos como seres imortais, que enquanto religião ou consequências religiosas nos leva de volta à profunda conexão íntima com Deus em nós. Nesse processo de compreender ciência, religião e filosofia integradas, está no centro de tudo isto a consciência de que cada um de nós é um ser divino por natureza. Este foi todo o trabalho de Jesus na Terra, para conscientizar-nos da grandeza de cada um de nós enquanto filhos de Deus. E através deste processo de conscientização, nos levar a um mergulho mais profundo e a uma ampliação de consciência mais dilatada a respeito de nós mesmos. Vejam vocês a sequência que Jesus utiliza em O Sermão da Montanha. Aquele povo hebreu esperava Jesus como um Messias prometido há longos anos. E eles desejavam que ele viesse sobre um cavalo, cheio de armas e exércitos, para subjugar a dominação romana e libertar aquele povo que havia saído do cativeiro do Egito e havia construído gerações na tentativa de serem verdadeiramente livres sem encontrar a verdadeira liberdade. Estavam permanentemente subjugados. No entanto, Jesus vem como Messias, mas não como a espera desejava. Ele vem como ele verdadeiramente é. Entra em Jerusalém montado em um burrico, sendo aclamado nas ruas como ser profundamente humano e que conectava os corações. Aquelas pessoas estavam muito tocadas com aquele Jesus que as sensibilizava, mas também muito decepcionadas, porque a tradição, a herança e toda aquela cultura dizia que aquele homem viria libertá-los. E todos se perguntavam, que liberdade é esse? Que liberdade pode esse homem verdadeiramente trazer para nós? Jesus então diz o Evangelho, sobretudo no texto em que Mateus narra o Sermão da Montanha. Jesus então sobe ao monte, representando o movimento da elevação da consciência. E lá no alto, todos se assentam aos seus pés para escutá-lo. É muito importante que no percurso evolutivo nós aprendamos a elevar a nossa frequência para assentar aos pés de Jesus. Subir nos montes das nossas vulnerabilidades, das nossas dores, das nossas fraquezas, das nossas dificuldades, sem a arrogância e a prepotência de saber caminhos, mas como o aprendiz que se coloca aos pés daquele que verdadeiramente pode e verdadeiramente sabe. Ali estavam 5.000 homens, fora as mulheres e as crianças. E é interessantíssimo nós entendermos a trajetória ou o roteiro que Jesus estabelece naquele momento. Primeiro, ele alimenta a multidão. Porque sem que o corpo esteja atendido nas suas necessidades básicas, nós não temos atenção para as coisas que são espirituais. Então Jesus pede a colaboração daqueles que eram seus seguidores. E Jesus traz um primeiro elemento de autoconsciência muito importante naquele instante. Se ele quisesse, ele poderia ter feito chover os maná dos céus, ele poderia ter materializado o alimento, ele poderia ter feito algo distinto. No entanto, ele pergunta para os apóstolos: que tens para dar? E eles dizem: ah, Senhor, somente 2 pães e 5 peixes. E ele diz: isso basta. E ele multiplica aquilo de uma tal maneira que depois daquelas milhares de pessoas alimentadas, ainda sobram 12 cestos cheios. Porque 12 eram os apóstolos. E os apóstolos são um símbolo do colégio iniciático de Jesus. Do conjunto de seguidores que querem e buscam aprender com Cristo. Então, sobrava um cesto para cada um, como uma mensagem do Cristo: alimentai a fome da humanidade. Porque ninguém desenvolve autoconsciência sem ter as suas necessidades básicas atendidas. Maslow classificou isso de uma forma muito simples e, ao mesmo tempo, objetiva na psicologia, dentro das pirâmides das necessidades do homem, mostrando que a atenção ao corpo é fundamental. Então, quando nós pensamos nos problemas da humanidade, nós também nos lembramos da imensa multidão que passa fome em todo o mundo. Da imensa carga de dores e dificuldades físicas que cada um vivencia na sua luta pela sobrevivência aqui na Terra. E nós nos lembramos de Jesus, que ao convidar aqueles homens a expandir a consciência aos seus pés, deu um cesto de pão e de peixe para cada um, convidando-os a matar a fome da humanidade. Talvez a primeira autoconsciência que Jesus nos leva a ter é que, se nós nos compreendemos como filhos de Deus, como seres divinos por natureza, também compreendemos que não há distinção no universo dentro da família universal. Estamos todos irmanados dentro dos mesmos princípios de potencialidade, necessidade e grandeza. E aprender a nos olharmos como iguais talvez seja uma das necessidades mais fundamentais dentro do processo da consciência. Conhecer-nos como pessoas iguais ao outro. Isso significa perceber que não há diferença de nacionalidade, de cultura, de país, de cor da pele, de orientação sexual, de conhecimento religioso, de postura política, que não há diferença no mundo que tire do ser humano aquela grandeza fundamental de que todos somos divinos e todos somos iguais. Esta compreensão da igualdade, ela faz cair por terra as maiores ilusões do ego. A ilusão de supremacia, de ser maior ou melhor do que o outro, de ter mais do que o outro, de poder dar-se direitos maiores que o do outro, e nos faz compreender que a fraternidade é a linguagem da consciência universal. Sendo iguais, nós todos nos igualamos na mesma grandeza, diferenciados pelas lutas evolutivas, pelas oportunidades, pelo contexto de oportunidades que a cada um é dado, conquistado ou construído dentro desta encarnação. Assim, ao entregar àqueles homens aqueles 12 cestos cheios de pão e de peixe, Jesus convidava as pessoas a se irmanarem em família, compreendendo-se como iguais. Tem algo que nos aproxima mais do outro do que comer uma refeição junto com o outro? Do que sentar à mesa e olhar de frente nos olhos? Do que servir ao outro e dar ao outro algo de comer, algo de beber? Do que ser servido pelo outro e receber algo que nos alimente? O alimento é muito mais do que uma simples nutrição física. O alimento é uma forma de afeto, é uma forma de contato, de conexão, de irmandade. Em torno do alimento se congregam ideias, planos, reflexões, movimentos que nós estabelecemos quando comemos juntos. E que bonito é, e que bonito será quando nós, em humanidade, com esta consciência da divindade que nos habita e que habita o outro, pudermos juntos comer do mesmo cesto de pão, do mesmo cesto de peixe. Quando nós pudermos compreender que o cesto que me foi dado não é usufruto pessoal, é concessão divina de oportunidades de serviço para cada um de nós. E que todos podem e devem se igualar no campo das oportunidades e da dignidade pessoal. Essa consciência, simbolicamente, Jesus a traz para cada um de nós ao dizer: dai de comer. E dai a partir do quê? A partir daquilo que você tem para dar. Jesus, então, ao invés de multiplicar, transformar pedras em pães, ou de materializar a comida, como descrito, por exemplo, na chuva do maná dos céus no Velho Testamento, ele parte a partir da colaboração pessoal dos discípulos. E a pergunta, talvez simbólica, subliminar, que Jesus tem para todos nós neste contexto é: qual é o pão e qual é o peixe que você tem para partilhar com aqueles que estão ao seu lado? Não é possível que a gente partilhe sem ter consciência do que tem. Pertence naturalmente à ordem da ajuda que a gente dê o que tem para dar. E só dá aquele que conhece aquilo que tem. Aquele que sabe o que vai dentro do seu coração. E isto é uma postura afetiva de reconhecimento da própria grandeza, das próprias potencialidades, das próprias possibilidades. A autoconsciência com Jesus requer reconhecimento dos talentos que estão conosco, dos privilégios que cada um de nós tem, das oportunidades que nos foram dadas e dos efeitos disso na vida de cada um. Então, esta pergunta, o que tens para oferecer à multidão? Jesus pergunta hoje intensamente a cada um de nós. Porque a multidão morre de fome a todo tempo. Fome do corpo, fome da alma, fome das necessidades mais básicas e essenciais. Qual é a colaboração que nós temos para dar ao Cristo nesse instante? Alimentada, portanto, a multidão, Jesus sabe que aqueles que agora estavam satisfeitos das suas necessidades físicas traziam as necessidades morais na alma intensamente marcadas. Então Jesus, compreendendo a decepção daquele povo que esperava um guerreiro, ele começa por consolar os corações. E Jesus vai cantar as bem-aventuranças. Bem-aventurados os que choram, porque eles serão consolados. Uma compreensão que a doutrina espírita vai trazer para nós muito profundamente com a ideia e o paradigma da reencarnação, nos auxiliando a compreender que há um motivo justo para todas as circunstâncias e que elas, quaisquer que sejam, se configuram em elementos de progresso quando nós as aproveitamos como oportunidades. E então, se a nossa autoconsciência visita os conceitos de imortalidade da alma e se compreende espírito imortal, também passa a se analisar numa perspectiva muito ampliada. Porque agora não é mais apenas a ideia do efêmero, do passageiro, do imediato que atende ao coração, mas o conceito daquilo que é eterno, daquilo que é perene, daquilo que, como disse Jesus, a traça não corrói, o ladrão não rouba e nenhum túmulo pode armazenar, porque é patrimônio da alma. Com os conceitos de imortalidade, nós deixamos de nos compreender como produtos da união de um espermatozoide e um óvulo, para nos compreender como seres espirituais vinculados à matéria através da grandiosa porta de vida que os nossos pais nos trouxeram. No entanto, trazendo anteriores conquistas, necessidades, planos, projetos e destinado a futuras realizações, ampliações e satisfações. Com este conceito de imortalidade da alma, o autoconhecimento se amplia profundamente, porque então passamos a analisar não só os elementos biológicos, afetivos, familiares, sistêmicos que nos envolvem, mas compreendemos os conceitos da espiritualidade. E passamos também a planejar a nossa vida consoante esta consciência de seres imortais que nós somos. Porque quem se guia pelo conceito da imortalidade, dentro do processo da consciência da vida, reflete em qual efeito os seus atos, as suas decisões e as suas posturas têm para a imortalidade da alma. E isso é algo que Allan Kardec fala com muita beleza. Ele narra que quando uma prova muito intensa o visitava, fosse ela a da dificuldade material, a da calúnia daqueles que os atacavam, o das dificuldades de divulgação da doutrina espírita, os assédios espirituais e quaisquer outros, ele diz: eu fechava os meus olhos e antecipadamente me colocava no mundo dos espíritos e percebia o efeito futuro daquela prova ou daquela dificuldade que eu estava passando, para então balizar os meus atos. E Kardec vai utilizar uma imagem muito bonita, ele vai dizer, quando eu assim fazia, era como se eu subisse ao alto de uma montanha e de lá conseguisse vislumbrar todo o panorama, ao invés de apenas refletir sobre o momento imediato e presente. Então vejam que consciência interessante é essa da imortalidade da alma. Porque então, ao invés de revidar, ele escolhia perdoar, sabendo dos efeitos que isso traria para si mesmo e para o outro. Ao invés de reagir automaticamente, liberando a projeção da sua sombra no outro, ele escolhia olhar para si mesmo e se perguntar: que efeito tem em mim isso que me fazem? Porque o outro pode escolher fazer comigo o que quer, mas eu decido qual o efeito que isso tem em mim. Ele olhava para dentro dele mesmo e decidia qual postura, enquanto ser espiritual, ele queria ter no mundo. Veja que consciência fantástica de imortalidade da alma, de permanente presença na realidade espiritual. Mas talvez vocês possam argumentar, mas Andrei, pensar na imortalidade da alma é algo muito distante, é algo muito longe para um mundo tão imediato. No entanto, a doutrina espírita, e talvez esse tempo de pandemia com intensidade mais profunda ainda, vem nos lembrar que a impermanência é uma realidade da vida e que tudo passa muito rápido. Quem desenvolve a consciência da imortalidade da alma também sabe que a qualquer momento a morte pode nos visitar e chamar-nos ao encontro com a nossa própria consciência. É óbvio que as nossas defesas, o nosso instinto de vida, o nosso desejo de permanência, ou quaisquer ideias que a gente tem a respeito de nós mesmos, nos leva a dizer, não, isso não vai acontecer comigo. No entanto, esta é uma ilusão de quem vive no mundo, porque todos somos vulneráveis e todos estamos sujeitos a todo momento a sermos chamados ao encontro com a nossa própria consciência. Afinal de contas, a morte nada mais é do que um grande encontro com a nossa própria consciência. Perdemos as defesas que estabelecemos contra nós mesmos e entramos em contato com o efeito energético, espiritual, das nossas criações mentais, das nossas ideias, dos nossos sentimentos, dos efeitos dos nossos atos, dos nossos vínculos espirituais. E então, nesse momento, apenas aquilo que nós somos e fazemos no mundo representa o nosso advogado perante a nossa própria consciência. E aí, então, para aquele que seguia pelo conceito de imortalidade da alma, a pergunta permanente que deve nos nortear é: se a morte me chama hoje a uma mudança de morada, como eu me encontro perante mim mesmo? Eu me encontro pacificado agora ou eu me encontro perturbado? Eu me encontro satisfeito com as escolhas que tenho feito ou eu me encontro perturbado com as decisões que tenho tomado? Eu me encontro como um semeador de bem no mundo ou como um postergador de oportunidades divinas? Eu me encontro como um cristão testemunhador dos valores que trago dentro do meu coração ou como um intelectual cheio de informação, tal qual uma enciclopédia ambulante, sem impacto no mundo em que eu vivo. Eu me encontro em paz com os meus familiares, dentro de mim, afinal de contas não tem poder sobre o sentimento do outro, ou eu me encontro em perturbação e lutando aqui dentro. Eu me encontro em conexão com o alto através das posturas permanentes de comunhão, ou eu me encontro vivendo a vida como se eu fosse uma matéria que tem espírito ao invés de ser um espírito que está na matéria. Quem tem a consciência da imortalidade da alma deve se fazer essas perguntas todos os dias. Porque o que caracteriza a nossa paz interior não é o estado de perfeição, nem de idealização, nem de correspondência àquilo que os outros esperam de nós. O que traz a paz profunda ao coração é a coerência entre valores e ações. É caminhar no mundo em sintonia com a própria crença, em movimento de paz interior. Então, ao declarar bem-aventurados os que choram, porque serão consolados, Jesus estava falando de uma realidade imortal da vida. O mesmo que ele continuou a cantar nas outras bem-aventuranças, conclamando aqueles homens a um consolo ao ego e uma ativação da consciência espiritual. Certo, Jesus não queria fazer ali ou construir ali um conjunto de pessoas submissas à agressividade alheia ou ao domínio alheio, ausentes de reflexão sobre si mesmo. Jesus queria empoderar homens e mulheres para a postura autêntica do amor a si mesmo e a Deus acima de todas as coisas. Porque homens e mulheres empoderados no alto amor e na sua dignidade podem ser aprisionados, podem ser escravizados, podem ser conduzidos, mas não perdem a conexão consigo mesmo, estão em permanente luta para sustentar a sua dignidade no mundo. E é isso que nós vimos os apóstolos fazerem ao longo de todo o tempo. Eu imagino um universo dos conflitos interiores de todos aqueles que seguiam a Jesus, que de repente se encontram como seres divinos e se reconhecem divinos no mundo, porém vivendo em meio a lutas humanas muito profundas, iguais àquelas que nós vivemos hoje. Mas vejam que interessante. Então, logo Jesus fala das bem-aventuranças, ele passa a falar do ser divino que cada um de nós é. E ele vai dizer: vós sois o sal da terra. E se o sal for insípido, com que se há de salgar? Vós sois a luz do mundo. Mas se essa luz se esconde e não é colocada em um lugar que todos vejam, a que ela serve? Jesus, então, tendo alimentado o corpo e conclamado a igualdade, tendo consolado o ego e conclamado a imortalidade da alma, trazia agora a consciência daquele povo que simboliza a humanidade para a grandeza da sua divindade. E não há nada mais transformador dentro da autoconsciência cristã do que reconhecer-se filho de Deus. Não daquele Deus da tradição judaico-cristã ocidental, aquele Deus cheio de iras, de emoções, de desejos, de vontades, aquele Deus que ora premia e ora se vinga, o Deus apresentado pelo Espiritismo. que diverge completamente desta imagem. É um Deus de infinito amor e de infinita misericórdia. Não deixa de ser força e rigor, porque é verdadeiramente um Deus a que se deve temer. A sua força é descomunal e as suas leis são soberanas. No entanto, é uma expressão de grandeza e de amor tão intensa que agasalha a cada ser humano de uma forma tão linda que desperta em cada um a presença maior do Pai dentro do coração. A sua própria presença, né? Dentro de cada um de nós. Eu me lembro de um dia estar lendo um livro que me tocou muito, que se chama Curando a Nossa Imagem de Deus. E é escrito por 2 padres jesuítas e uma freira, irmãos, e falam de uma forma muito linda de como que eles mudaram a imagem que tinham de Deus. E então um daqueles freis conta que um dia uma mãe chegou para ele no confessionário e disse: Frei, meu filho se suicidou. E diz a fé cristã que ele foi para o inferno. Estou muito angustiada com isso. E então o Frei diz que olhou para dentro de si, da teoria da sua fé, e disse, mas ela tem razão. No entanto, ele não teve coragem, enquanto ser humano, de dizer para ela, sim, ele foi para o inferno. Ele se sentiu numa saia justa. E ele diz que então recorreu a um aprendizado teológico importante, que dizia, quando você não souber o que fazer, devolva a pergunta ao intelector. Então, naquele momento, ele olhou para aquela mãe e disse, o que a senhora acha que ele fez, que aconteceu com ele? E ela diz para ele, eu acho que Deus o acolheu. E então, naquele momento, ele diz assim, vamos imaginar, fecha os seus olhos e imagina que você chega diante do trono de Deus. E então, ela lhe diz, sim, eu já estou vendo isso. E o Frei pergunta para ela, e o que Deus faz neste momento? E ela diz, eu lhe apresento meu filho. Ele desce do seu trono, nos abraça e nós 3 choramos juntos. E naquele momento, aquele Frei olhou para dentro de si e disse, se há no coração de uma mãe amor infinito para acolher aos seus filhos em quaisquer circunstâncias, não pode haver em Deus amor menor. E então eles vão postular. Deus fará tantas experiências de amor quantas forem necessárias até que todos os seus filhos se reconheçam na grandeza da sua herança divina. Não importa qual o caminho de ignorância e de dor cada um de nós escolha. Não importa se nós nos encontramos profundamente culpados ou aprovados perante a nossa consciência. O olhar de Deus para cada um de nós é um olhar de incondicional amor. Diz-nos o Espírito Dias da Cruz que quando Deus olha para a criatura humana, não vê uma obra imperfeita, vê uma obra perfeita em execução. E sabe que obra perfeita sua não falha nunca. Deus ama todas as etapas. Deus ama todos os contextos. Deus envolve-nos e agasalha-nos em um amor tão profundamente acolhedor e sustentador, de tal forma que cada um de nós tenha aquilo que precisa no momento em que necessita. permitindo que as nossas escolhas, as nossas construções ou os nossos contextos de luta funcionem para nós, tal qual o forno para o vaso, tal qual o machado para a árvore, tal qual o buril para a peça que precisa ser burilada. Cada um de nós vai construindo-se nas lutas de cada dia. No entanto, no mais profundo espaço sombrio de nós mesmos, ou na imensidão da comunhão do amor de Deus, em qualquer contexto e em qualquer circunstância, ali está Deus conosco. Ali está a grandeza do amor de Deus, nos lembrando que somos divinos em nossa natureza e em nossa essência. Vós sois o sal da terra, dizia Jesus. Jesus não disse, alguns de vocês são o sal da terra. Jesus não disse, aqueles dentre vocês que se sentem os eleitos e os melhores são o sal da terra. Jesus não diz, vocês, os representantes religiosos, são o sal da terra. Jesus diz para os 5.000 homens, mulheres e crianças assentados aos seus pés, todo ser humano é sal da terra. Todos nós somos divinos. E se todos nós somos divinos, é de se perguntar o que nós temos feito com a grandeza da divindade que nos habita. É de se perguntar quais escolhas e quais caminhos nós temos tomado na existência, na vida, em coerência com este Filho de Deus que cada um de nós é. Qual filho nós temos sido? O filho pródigo que solicita ao pai a sua herança e se perde gastando em fantasias até chegar à profunda miséria e ao vazio interior? O filho que se sente superior e permanece junto com o pai para poder ser reconhecido e para receber mais da sua herança? Ou o filho fiel, que cai e levanta, que recomeça a cada instante e está de olhos permanentes na grandeza da promessa do Cristo? Quando temos esta autoconsciência cristã, percebemos que o auto-amor é um princípio fundamental de autoconsciência. Amar a nós mesmos não é um sentimento inato, é uma decisão, é uma postura. E considerando a nossa imperfeição de brotos nascentes que estão desenvolvendo-se pouco a pouco, que estão revelando-se no tempo, que estão imaturos, juvenis, é natural compreender que em nós habita a luz da essência e habita também a sombra da não consciência. Que somos contraditórios, que somos múltiplos, que aquilo que chamamos de eu é formado de muitos nós e que vários habitam esse albergue interior que nós resumimos na nossa personalidade. Há muitos para serem acolhidos dentro de nós. Múltiplas faces de nós mesmos, múltiplas subpersonalidades, múltiplas características, múltiplos desejos, múltiplas contradições. Tudo isso faz parte desse processo de crescimento e de desenvolvimento que nos leva na direção da nossa essência. Então, esta autoconsciência cristã, ela nos convida a uma postura de amorosidade, de ternura conosco, a um compromisso generoso em cultivar a boa semente, que requer reconhecer também o joio que está ao lado do trigo dentro de nós. Logo antes de participar aqui com vocês, eu estava em uma reunião da Fraternidade Sem Fronteiras. E o nosso líder, Wagner Moura, presidente, fundador desse trabalho humanitário, do qual cada um de nós e muitos de vocês fazem parte, ele conversava conosco exatamente sobre isso. Sobre o joio e o trigo que vivem dentro do coração de cada um de nós. E como que a obra requer de nós que nós permitamos que o trigo cresça e aprendamos a ceifar o joio. E enquanto eu ouvia, eu pensava e lembrava quantas vezes ao longo deste processo de trabalho humanitário, diante do tamanho da imensidão das dores humanas, das lutas, ou da necessidade do trabalho, quantas e quantas vezes eu e vários outros nos sentimos incompetentes, ou inadequados, ou conflituosos diante da grandeza deste trabalho. É que a vivência cristã requer de nós uma postura tão firme com os valores que às vezes nós nos sentimos inadequados diante da grandeza das oportunidades de servir que a vida nos dá. No entanto, lembrava um companheiro hoje na reunião, Deus não escolhe os capacitados. Deus capacita os escolhidos. Jesus não espera de cada um de nós a expressão divina perfeita. Espera pessoas que lidem com humanidade, com a sua humanidade. Que lidem com humanidade, com a humanidade do outro. Que saibam recolher as suas projeções sombrias ao invés de atirá-las a todo tempo. Que saiba acolher no outro também as suas dores, as suas dificuldades, as suas limitações, para permitir que as humanidades se conectem. Jesus espera que cada um de nós, nesta consciência cristã, mergulhe profundo dentro de si para compreender que os contextos da vida são educativos, mas que independente da prova que cada um de nós vive, enquanto pessoa, enquanto grupo ou humanidade, todos somos chamados a sermos agentes da misericórdia. Então é natural que a consciência da imortalidade da alma nos faça compreender que há um sentido para tudo no mundo, inclusive para as lutas profundas. Paulo de Tarso, em um livro dos Espíritos, vai dizer que é aquilo que você chama de castigo, ou que interpreta como castigo. Uma certa soma de dores necessárias a fazer-vos desgostar do mal e readquirir o gosto pelo bem. Olha que bonita esta fala de Paulo de Tarso. Blaise Pascal, em A Revista Espírita, vai perguntar em um texto muito bonito sobre se Deus pune as suas criaturas. Ele vai dizer, se uma planta começa a crescer e desvia-se do rumo traçado, que faz o jardineiro prudente? Muitos dentro de nós talvez respondam, ele poda a planta, porque a gente pensa sempre na destruição. Mas diz Blaise Pascal que o jardineiro prudente coloca uma estaca para guiar a planta para a direção que ela deve ir. E aí ele diz, assim faz Deus convosco. Quando o ser divino desvia-se do rumo traçado, a vida coloca demarcações de forma a fazer retornar para o prumo do desenvolvimento natural. Então, a consciência da imortalidade da alma nos faz compreender que os contextos de luta, de dores e de dificuldades, que este contexto de humanidade imperfeita a ser acolhida dentro de nós, É o contexto de um desenvolvimento espiritual lento, gradual e paulatino, que compete a cada um de nós colaborar com o seu pão e o seu peixe, ofertando aquilo que tem para dar como agente da misericórdia, e nunca como vinagre nas feridas abertas do outro, nem na sua própria. Não há transformação que aconteça pelo poder da crueldade ou do constrangimento. As transformações acontecem pelo poder do amor. Começando do alto amor e partindo para o amor, do acolhimento ao outro tal qual o outro pode ser, e não como nós gostaríamos que o outro fosse. E nesse movimento encontrando pontes e soluções criativas que dignifiquem a criatura em todas as etapas do processo. Esse é o convite da consciência cristã que o Espiritismo vem trazer para cada um de nós. A consciência de sermos divinos, imortais, espíritos mergulhados na matéria, construtores do nosso próprio destino, luz e sombra, beleza e feiura, contradições, múltiplos, todos destinados a ser acolhidos com generosidade dentro de nós. Porque aquilo que é acolhido perde força de comando sobre nós. E aquilo que é amado ganha força de estímulo e produtividade dentro de nós. Assim, quanto mais nós nos acolhemos e nos amamos, mais crescemos e mais desenvolvemos. Por isso Jesus, no Sermão da Montanha e em toda parte, não usava de crueldade para com aquelas personalidades humanas sofridas que estavam diante dele. Ele acolhia com generosidade e estimulava para que o melhor de cada ser humano que ali estava se manifestasse. E convidava a cada um a ser na Terra o reflexo da divindade que brilha nos céus. Essa é a reflexão que eu gostaria de trazer para vocês hoje. E a gente, tendo uns minutinhos, a gente interage conforme vocês desejam.
Oi, Andrei, obrigada pela palestra linda que você passou para a gente. Muita coisa para refletir, com certeza. O pessoal está um pouco tímido hoje. Temos só uma pergunta por enquanto. Então, eu vou fazer a pergunta da Rosângela para você. Ela disse assim: ouvi falar sobre conhecer-me, ajudar-me a entender os meus talentos para compreender o que posso oferecer a outros à minha volta. Fraternidade, igualdade, conexão, conhecimento da reencarnação traz a nós uma responsabilidade ainda maior dessa ação. Seria correto dizer que nossa primeira responsabilidade é de informar o máximo possível aos outros a necessidade de avaliarmos o que cada um tem a oferecer ao seu irmão ou irmã? Tá mudo? Oi, peraí. Eu consigo... Quem é que pode... Só um minutinho, André, problemas técnicos já, vamos resolver.
Não, foi problema não, foi eu mesmo. Eu que desativei. Eu acho que a nossa primeira necessidade não é informar ninguém. A nossa primeira necessidade é viver de acordo com a nossa informação. A primeira mensagem que a gente passa para o mundo é a mensagem da nossa postura. Depois é a mensagem da nossa fala. Então, o primeiro movimento que a gente faz é a gente ser coerente com aquilo que está dentro de nós. E a partir daí a gente partilha aquilo que vai sendo vivência verdadeira nossa. Aquilo que vai acontecer. Quando a gente fala de talentos, às vezes a gente se angustia pensando que talentos precisam ser grandes coisas, né? Talento é toda e qualquer potencialidade ou possibilidade que viva dentro de nós. Então, o que a gente faz para desenvolver os nossos talentos? A gente utiliza aqueles que já tem. ao invés de ficar obcecado por aquele que ainda não conquistou. A melhor forma de ampliar os nossos horizontes e as nossas possibilidades é bem utilizar aquilo que nós temos e somos. É o que Jesus nos ensina, né, com a parábola dos talentos, mostrando que cada um desenvolve aquilo que tem. Então, acho que esse é um caminho seguro.
Obrigada. A gente conseguiu ter mais uma perguntinha agora. A Fernanda está perguntando como acolher as suas sombras sem culpa.
A pergunta é, Fernanda, para que você quer ficar sem culpa? A culpa tem uma função muito boa. A culpa é um balizador. Há muitos movimentos em nós que são com culpa. Culpa não significa autodestruição. Culpa não significa que você vai se autopunir. Culpa significa responsabilização pessoal. E às vezes sentir-se culpado é um caminho maravilhoso de crescimento. Porque diante da culpa eu posso olhar com amor para mim mesmo e dizer, sim, é minha responsabilidade. Eu me ocupo dos efeitos. Sim, é minha construção. Eu agora caminho nisso. Então é uma ilusão que a gente pode fazer nos movimentos da vida de consciência leve. A consciência de culpa tem um papel. No entanto, ela tem dois caminhos. Ela pode ser remorso ou ela pode ser arrependimento. E o caminho do remorso é orgulhoso, porque então você vai usar a culpa para se autopunir, se ferir e se paralisar. Esse caminho não leva a lugar nenhum, ele constrói depressões e dores muito intensas. O caminho do arrependimento é aquele da responsabilização pessoal. E ele leva adiante, porque então você diz, é minha responsabilidade, eu me ocupo disso. O que a gente faz no período entre vidas? A gente valida as nossas conquistas e as nossas culpas. E a gente planeja as nossas próximas encarnações como? Com as oportunidades de sanar as nossas culpas, de reparar os nossos equívocos, de desenvolver os talentos, de multiplicar potencialidades e de crescer. Então, todos nós somos espíritos culpados. Todos nós trazemos dentro de nós consciência de culpa. E às vezes na vida, a gente tem que aprender a acolher as nossas culpas reais. No entanto, nós criamos um monte de culpas ilusórias. Culpas que não são verdadeiras. E aí há a culpa que vem das crenças negativas a respeito de nós mesmos, da idealização de perfeição, da rigidez e do autocontrole, dos apegos e das dificuldades de libertação pessoal, das obediências às vontades, aos quereres e às ideias dos outros. E isso em família, por exemplo, muito frequente. Eu vejo sempre, por exemplo, as pessoas com culpa quando precisam sair de casa e despedir-se dos seus pais para poder formar a sua própria família. Quantas pessoas evitam esse movimento e falam assim, não, eu quero sair de casa na hora que estiver tudo bem, na hora que a mamãe ficar feliz, está tudo em paz. Eu falo assim, então você já senta aí com lã e agulha. Lã e agulha para quê, André? Para você aprender a tecer crochê, porque vai precisar bastante na velhice. Não é? Porque vai ficar em casa aí, ó, até os pais desencarnarem, porque as pessoas às vezes não dão conta de perceber que ir para a própria vida é a melhor forma de fazer ou honrar aquilo que foi recebido. E que esta separação, por exemplo, ela gera culpa mesmo. Gera culpa porque envolve os vínculos familiares, as sensações de dever dentro dos vínculos familiares e tantas outras coisas que precisam ser trabalhadas. Então, esse universo de culpas, nós não estamos dizendo das culpas reais, nós estamos dizendo das culpas que são derivadas da interpretação de vida que a gente faz, que vem dos vínculos, vem dos apegos, vem das ideias. Muda-se as ideias, muda-se a culpa. Ou faça o movimento e a culpa vai diluindo. Eu brinco que essa natureza de culpa é como se fosse um bloco de gelo que você tem que ir carregando. E ele vai dissolvendo à medida que você vai dando os passos de alto amor na vida. Então, há as culpas que a gente renova mudando as ideias e há aquelas que a gente assume e enfrenta as consequências.
Bem, se mais alguém tem alguma pergunta, será? Acho que tá todo mundo quietinho agora. Acho que falou tudo, hein? Falou tudo, André. Então é isso. Eu acredito que... Muito obrigado mais uma vez. Acredito que o nosso host vai voltar agora para falar. Obrigado, Andrei. Muito obrigada.
Eu que agradeço, viu, gente? Deixo a vocês um abraço querido a toda a família do TSS, a toda a família canadense, espírita, a todos. E um beijo muito querido, tá bom? Especialmente na Sandra e no Jô, que foi quem me apresentou essa família, e o Márcio, meu querido amigo, com o qual a gente nutre esse contato.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrei, for this amazing time and great teaching us. After this amazing information, and probably everyone is self-reflecting, let's listen a great music to help us to internalize the teaching from Andrei. We would like to invite Kleber Jr. to sing for us, and welcome, Kleber. The time is all yours.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you.
Hello, thank you guys. É um prazer estar aqui. Que palestra maravilhosa do Andrei. E eu não tinha como não cantar outra música para fechar o que ele disse. Uma música chamada Apenas Amar, do Denis Soares. E é mais ou menos assim. Todo o céu se organiza para nos transformar. O Cristo já nos auxilia para a vida nova alçar. Ondas de aves belos podem vir de nossas próprias mãos. Sentimentos triunfantes brotam naturais. Então, vou por dentro me preparar para sem rebeldia aceitar. Invencível expande o amor em fraternidade. Eu desejo apenas amar e tudo mais de afetos cativar. Uma luz vem para resplandecer dentro do ser para o Pai glorificar. Vou por dentro me preparar para sem rebeldia aceitar. Invencível expande o amor em fraternidade. Eu desejo apenas amar e tudo mais de afetos cativar. Uma luz vem para resplandecer dentro do ser para o Pai glorificar. Que a gente se conheça melhor, então, né? Tem uma outra música, acho que ainda tem um tempinho, que é bem o que o Andrei também sugeriu como palestra, que chama-se Conhecer a Si Mesmo. Que é assim, Buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Se penetrar, se reparar, se conhecer, se aceitar e melhorar e florescer, frutificar para ajudar, Jesus com seu sorriso amar, buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Renunciar a todo orgulho, ao egoísmo, vivenciar o amor de Deus e cultivar a humanidade, respeitar, se amar amando ao seu irmão, buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Sem Jesus, buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Se penetrar, se reparar, se conhecer, se aceitar e melhorar e florescer, frutificar para ajudar, Jesus com seu sorriso amar, buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Buscar a si mesmo no coração não é tarefa fácil, não. Mas é possível, né? E aí, se o host me permitir, acho que pelo horário ainda posso mais uma.
Pode.
Pode. Tem uma outra música que é da Marielza Tiscati. I would like to invite our friends, even though the musics here are in Portuguese, so now, thinking someone, put this music in your thoughts and thinking someone to give them as a gift, ok? Então, aqueles amigos que puderem agora vir para si mesmo, se interiorizar e, através dessa música, emanar bons pensamentos, é o meu convite para vocês. E é uma música que se chama Pare para Pensar, da Marielza Tiscati, que fala o seguinte. Acho que também combina com o que o Andrei falou. Agora pare para pensar, é tempo, pare para pensar no que faz a vida. Quantos minutos você já viveu? Em todo esse tempo você cresceu. Responda para si mesmo o que você construiu. Conte nos dedos quantos consolou. Tente lembrar se você amou. A quem você amou? Por que você amou? É tempo, pare para pensar, enquanto há tempo de recomeçar essa vida. Pense bem no que vem fazendo e no muito que resta fazer. Não fique se lamentando. Não foi Deus que lhe pôs a sofrer. Agora pare para pensar. Há tempo, pare para pensar no que faz da vida. No que faz da vida. No que faz da vida. Obrigado, gente.
Valeu, Kleber. Muito, muito, muito obrigada. Tem mais alguma musiquinha aí no baú? Uma curtinha?
Oi, estão me ouvindo? Estão me ouvindo?
Sim.
Ah, agora sim, né? Tem uma que se chama Basta Ter Fé, de minha autoria e de um amigo meu, do Amazonas, e ele é assim. Noite de luar, chego a pensar na imensidão que é ter você perto de mim. E em oração te peço perdão por tudo que errei. Eu sei que posso melhorar. E esse eterno amor jamais cessará em meu coração. Eu sei que fiz não foi em vão. Deixo fluir e vibrar toda essa força que veio me guiar, me faz sentir. Pode existir um mundo de paz. Sei que nasci pra vencer. Esse é o leme que me faz viver. Sei que Deus está onde eu estiver. Basta ter fé. Deixo fluir e vibrar toda essa força que veio me guiar, me faz sentir. Pode existir um mundo de paz. Sei que nasci pra vencer. Esse é o leme que me faz viver. Sei que Deus está onde eu estiver. Basta ter fé. Eu sei que Deus está onde eu estiver. Basta ter fé. Sei que Deus está onde eu estiver. Basta ter fé.
Uhul! Aonde que acha a música?
Vou passar o link depois.
Aonde?
Vou passar o link, tá no Spotify.
Ah, legal. Passa assim, pode passar aí pelo WhatsApp do grupo ou lá no nosso Toronto Spiritist Weekend no Facebook.
Deal.
Thank you. A gente se vê amanhã. Ou continua com a gente aí.
Continuo. Tô aqui. Cada intervalo a gente vai cantar um pouquinho.
Vamos ver. Tá sobrando tempo? Vem.
Beleza.
Obrigada, Gata. Até daqui a pouco.
Até mais.
Tchau.
Kleber, what a voice, my friend. Thank you very much for this amazing time. Bring us more peaceful mood. Thank you. Our next two lectures will be in English. Our second lecture is with Thiago Leite, who is part of the communication team of the Canadian Spirit Council and a member of the Allan Kardec Vancouver Society, where he volunteers in multiple departments, as such, social assistant, doctrinal studies, mediumship, and Spiritus Young Education. Thiago also works as a localization project manager, helping business expand globally. Thiago is going to talk to us about what is my family type, spiritual or biological, the union of spirits with the same family contest and intend to bring us then together in favor of reciprocal evolution and intimate reform. The microphone is all open for you, Thiago. Welcome. Thank you for your time.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Good afternoon. We're very, very happy to be here today at the 8th Toronto Spiritist Weekend, this time talking a little about family and the connections we establish as immortal spirits that we all are. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys so you can see my presentation. Let me just do that very quickly. Are you able to see my screen? Perfect. There you go. So like I said, we're very happy to be here. So once we start learning what Spiritism teaches us about family ties, that's saying, let's just move. I didn't ask to be in this family, starts making less and less sense. This is actually something we tell our kids at the Child and Youth Spiritist Education, that they can no longer use that argument, as now they know how things work. Now we know how things work when we start learning what Spiritism teaches us about this matter, about the family connections we established from thousands and thousands of years back. We not only asked, but oftentimes we begged to reincarnate as part of that group of beings. When talking about divine providence, we need to understand that there are no coincidences. There is always a reason behind everything that happens to us. Spiritism teaches us that spiritual bonds, they come before blood ties. In chapter 4 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, Allan Kardec says that in the spirit world, the spirits, they form groups or families united by affection, sympathy, and similar inclinations. These spirits, happy at being together, they seek out one another. Still in the Gospel according to Spiritism, now chapter 14, we see that blood ties, they do not necessarily establish ties among spirits. We are all immortal spirits who have lived in many other bodies, wearing many different personalities. We all have a story to tell. So Allan Kardec says, spirits who incarnate in the same family, especially among close relatives, they are most often sympathetic spirits connected by previous relationships that are expressed by their mutual affection during earthly life. Nevertheless, it may also happen that such spirits are complete strangers to one another, divided by past life aversions that are now expressed as animosity to serve as a trial. So what is Kardec saying here? That spirits who incarnate in the same family, they are connected by previous relationships. And if we dig deeper, like we said, behind all that hatred that sometimes we see among family members or acquaintances, behind all that hatred lies a beautiful connection which is waiting to be nurtured, to be developed. Throughout this millennial journey, we have created many bonds with a variety of people or spirits. We have lived many lives, like we said. We have had many siblings, parents, lovers, as well as many enemies. We have loved many people, but we also have hated and hurt several others. Regardless of the type of relationship we created, be it hatred or love, we still established a connection with that soul. We became responsible for that feeling we nurtured. We became a part of their family, and they, in turn, became part of our family as well, part of our spiritual family. And that is something we cannot change. Because true family bonds are not blood ties, but ties of sympathy and similarity of ideas. That's what Spiritism teaches us. So these ties, they connect us, incarnate and discarnate spirits, before, during, and after our corporeal existences. So before the biological family comes the spiritual family. This actually reminds us of Maria João de Deus, the mother of the Brazilian medium Francisco Cândido Xavier, or Chico Xavier, like we call him. So his mother, she passed away when he was only 5 years old. Chico was one of her many kids. And there are several stories about the moments the Brazilian medium could see and talk to his mother already discarded through his mediumship. Her lovely presence would embrace him with peace, with love, with hope, giving Chico the strength he needed through her words and affection during those special meetings. And that happens to all of us. We can be mediums, we cannot, it doesn't matter. These spiritual beings, they are always by our side, cheering for us, praying for us. So the point here is that the body may die, times may change, but the connection we once made, it lasts forever, especially when we are talking about love. So these ties, they can be strong, healthy, they can be bright, but they can also be weak, thin, as though there is no connection at all. They can be quite painful, but they're still there. So being perfect in countless ways, the divine providence gave us the blessing of reincarnation as a powerful resource to help us advance while healing our souls from painful events. So we all have our shares of pain. We all have memories from the most difficult and joyful times. They're all stored in our spiritual envelope. Of course, thanks to the forgetfulness of the past, these memories, they won't manifest clearly as though we're remembering something that happened yesterday. They will, however, manifest as sensations, as feelings, hence the mutual affection or hatred we feel from one another. And that is why two individuals born from different parents often may be more related, spiritually speaking, than if they were related through blood. These sympathetic spirits, they attract each other based on the affinity of ideals. They search for each other and they usually feel happy together. Whereas two relatives by blood may repel each other, which we see often happening sometimes within our own families. However, it is important to reinforce that just because we may have more similarities with friends, it doesn't mean that our relatives by blood, they also don't deserve our love, our respect. Even if we don't love them as we love our close friends, for example, because that relative, that person, that spirit is just as a familiar spirit as the friend we love and cherish. If we have that difficult family member, it means there is something we need to learn. There is something we need to develop. There is something we need to improve. As our goal is to love one another, embracing our universal family. In question 205 of the Spirit's book, the spiritual benefactors, they say that reincarnation broadens the duties of fraternity, because your neighbor or your servant may be a spirit who was formerly related to you by blood. That's what the spirits tell us. So have we ever thought about this? That sometimes that person we mistreat, that person we ignore, we judge, we point fingers at, may have been someone who was very dear to us in another lifetime. And that for some reason, the forgetfulness of the past did not allow us to remember them in this lifetime. Jesus himself, he talks about families through spirit ties. As we can see in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 12, verses 46 to 50. So while Jesus was still talking to the crowd, his mother and brothers, they stood outside, wanting to speak to him. Then someone told him, "Your mother and brothers are standing outside, wanting to speak to you." He replied to him, "Who is my mother and who are my brothers?" Pointing to his disciple, he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." So what is Jesus teaching us here? Clearly, his intention was not to be rude or not to acknowledge his family by blood. No. And Jesus never did anything just for the purpose of doing it, just for fun. There was no coincidence when talking about Jesus and his actions. As the very wise spirit that he is, he took that opportunity to let the world know that we are all related as spirits, as we come from the same source. And what is the source? God and more. Jesus teaches us that we will embrace that fact for good as we evolve and understand our role as agents of God's will through actions of charity. So God, he did not create us for idleness. He didn't create us to hate one another. He created us all equals, simple, ignorant beings, giving us all the same opportunities. We all have that divine spark within us. We all come from the same source. In the Gospel, according to Spiritism, Allan Kardec teaches us that the spiritual ties, they are permanent. They are strengthened through purification and are perpetuated in the spirit world through the many migrations of the soul. Reincarnation reinforces that teaching from Jesus as it helps us grow spiritual ties. If we look at matter only, we would see these ties as something fragile like matter itself. Because pure materialistic connections, possessions, they extinguish over time, as there would be no spiritual ground for anything to grow. Also, we don't take that to the spirit world with us once we return. Because we are spiritual beings. Eventually, we will return to our real, true life in the spirit world. So, when the spirit leaves the earth behind, it takes with it the passions or virtues that are inherent to its nature and goes into the spirit world either to perfect itself or to remain at a standstill until it desires to see the light. Some, therefore, depart carrying with them great hatred and insatiable desires for vengeance. But a few of these, more advanced than the others, they are allowed to glimpse a bit of the truth. They realize the disastrous effects of their passions and then resolve to do better. They understand that in order to reach God, there is one password only. And what is this password? Charity. However, there can be no charity without forgetting offenses and wrongs. Neither can there be charity with hatred in the heart and without forgiveness, says the Spirit St. Augustine in chapter 14 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. And how can we evolve towards God if we don't love our neighbor? How can we evolve towards God if we cannot practice acts of charity? Deep in our souls, we know that. And this is why most of us ask for a new incarnation within a particular group of spirits, related by blood or not, so that we can develop virtues such as mercy, patience, so that we can learn from one another. And most importantly, so that we can forgive ourselves from that dark past that still tortures us. Back to the gospel according to Spiritism, St. Augustine teaches us that in the spirit world, we look at those we detested while on earth. According to the spirit guide, at such a sight, our animosity reawakens. We rebel against the idea of forgiveness and even more against self-denial, especially when it means loving those who perhaps destroyed our fortune, our honor, our family. However, our unfortunate hearts are shaken. We are tired of feeling pain. We can no longer manage our pain. St. Augustine says that we still hesitate and waver, troubled by our confusing sentiments. At the same time, if we pay attention to our inner self, we will feel that gut feeling pushing us to start a new chapter as we can no longer suffer, remembering those painful events. Then, if we truly embrace the idea, the suggestion to do better, if we accept that change starts when we acknowledge our weaknesses and ask for help, we then pray to God and implore good spirits to give us the strength to guide us during these very decisive moments. Finally, after years of meditation and prayer, the spirit profits from the use of a body that is to be born in the family of the one it used to hate. And then we ask the spirits designated to transmit the divine orders to be allowed to fulfill on the earth the destiny of that body that is about to be formed. We ask to reincarnate because deep in our hearts we know that we need that to take the next step in our evolutional journey. We know that. The spirit author André Luiz, he brings us wonderful examples about family ties, reincarnation, and how love and forgiveness, they can play a key role in helping us take that next step in our evolutionary journey. He also shows us God's wisdom in his actions. In the book Missionaries of the Light, the spirit author tells us the story of Segismundo through the psychography of Francisco Cândido Xavier. In the book, we learn that Segismundo, in a past existence, he was murdered he actually murdered his friend Adelino, so he would have a chance to marry Raquel, Adelino's wife. He was madly in love with Raquel. So he thought, well, if I kill Adelino, she'll be free to marry me. She'll be free to love me. So that's what he did. But the crime generated serious consequences for everyone involved. The death of her husband led Raquel to prostitution and drug addiction. When realized that his plan went wrong, Segismundo's life was ruined. Adelino also suffered in the spirit world. So Segismundo, after a life of profound pain, returned to the spirit world in a miserable situation, marked by significant struggles, as he decided to take his own life. After spending some time suffering thanks to the crimes committed, he made certain progress when he awakened to his spiritual reality and decided to work to repair the past. Because when we return to the spirit world, we will observe our past deeds and we will suffer by reviewing our poor actions. It is not that God's going to punish us. No, we ourselves will inflict our own punishment, as it'll be hard for us to see that once again, we went against our spiritual nature. We went against the natural laws. So Segismundo then begins the reconstruction of his life, starting a significant transformation in his attitudes, opening up to the assistance work, spending his most intense energies helping the needy of all kinds, supporting the fallen and the suffering just like himself. He wanted to reconcile with the laws of God, and above all with his conscience and with his inner self. And thanks to his tireless work in the spirit world, he conquered the sympathy of many. However, at some point he realized that in order to take that next step, he needed a new existence, a new incarnation to put into practice what he learned and to get Adelino and Raquel to forgive him. But thanks to the merit accumulated by years of dedication to the suffering friends of the spirit world, Segismundo earned many benefits and the gratitude from those who were helped by him. Given these merits, the spirits of high moral came to his aid, to his support and protection, announcing that his next incarnation was going to happen very soon. We ask or receive the new opportunity where we will try to repair the past and build a better relationship with our family members. The path will be challenging, as we previously discussed, because even though we won't remember exactly what we did, the memories, they will manifest as sensations, as feelings, and sometimes animosity. Segismundo would have Raquel and Adelino as his parents, having the opportunity to reconcile with those two. The spirit guides then worked to convince the couple to receive Segismundo as their son. Raquel accepted immediately, while Adelino, he was reluctant to have him as a son, seeing in Segismundo the one who murdered him in his previous life. That was a big challenge for Adelino, who, although was very upset with Segismundo, was a good person, honest, hardworking, and filled with noble values. Then, after several excursions into the physical world and meeting with Raquel and Adelino's family, the spirits then managed to show the couple how important it would be for everyone involved to have that new opportunity of being reunited in a new family. All of this would contribute to everyone's growth and the development of a strong bond between these two brothers in God, Adelino and Segismundo. That bond had already been created when they first met. However, it was fragile due to the painful moments when Segismundo decided to take Adelino's life. The book shows us that even when we commit the greatest atrocities, if we are truly interested in improving and transforming ourselves, we will be greatly helped by the spirit world. Our past, it'll not go away, but we will have the help we need to restart, to rebuild our experiences, temporarily forgetting what we did. And that's what happened with our friend Segismundo. When he became aware of all the atrocities he committed, when he faced his own shadows, he realized the importance of work as a way of spiritual reconstruction. He gave himself intensely to others, often forgetting himself. He helped, he comforted, he supported, and above all, he renewed himself, opening up to get a new corporeal experience. He could have chosen just to suffer and to remain at that state for as long as he wanted. But the pain, his conscience did not let him. He chose to awake from that pain. He just couldn't deal with it anymore. So by his decision, he said to himself, I am going to take the next step. I need it for myself because I am an immortal spirit. This example we shared was of a planned reincarnation to change a past of mistakes and misunderstandings. And reincarnation, it helps us to understand divine justice. Without reincarnation, we would hardly be able to know how God works, how to understand that in such a wonderful, in such a rich world, We have people going through the most primary and severe difficulties. People without food, people on the streets on one side, and so much waste on the other. How to understand justice without grasping the concepts of reincarnation? So we see here that we will never, ever be alone. The more challenging and complex the mission, the more support, the more assistance we will have. We are never alone. We often disconnect from the spirit guides because we choose to do so through our actions of selfishness and hatred, through our moral vices. But if we truly raise our thoughts towards the spirit world, if we truly do that, if we truly act as Jesus recommended, we will see, we will feel the beloved guides surrounding us with their prayers, with their suggestions. We will see them offering their hands to help us walk through this path. St. Augustine urges us to understand that the soul who incarnates in our family comes from the spirit world to progress just like we do. Know your duties and put all your love in leading that soul to God. This is the mission that has been entrusted to you, and for which you will receive recompense if you faithfully fulfill it. The care and education you give that soul will help in its self-improvement and future well-being, says the Spirit Guide. We all have a duty, a mission to fulfill in our families. The education, the way we treat and look after one another, they all count. We are here to support one another with care and with gratitude as well, because we don't know the story behind that family connection. We actually know, but we just don't remember. We could have been given an opportunity to repair issues from thousands of years back if we knew how long it takes for the spirit guides to reunite that group of spirits under the same roof. Perhaps we would value this chance more. Do we think about it when dealing with our relatives? Well, most of us don't, because we tend to complain a lot. How wonderful it would be if our actions towards them were commended by this intense feeling of gratitude. Understanding that thanks to God's mercy, we are sharing the same home after we don't know how long. We learn it could take centuries until we cross paths again to repair certain areas of our past. It could take centuries. And what are we doing now to change that past? To reconnect with the souls that perhaps we hurt in the past? What are we doing to forgive? Therefore, as spiritists, what do we think when dealing with a difficult family member? Do we remember what we learned with the doctrine in an argument, when we lose our patience? Well, we can't even say that we lose our patience because we cannot lose something that we don't have, something that we don't own. Accidents, they don't happen when talking about God and his providence. He knows exactly what he does and what he allows. Nothing happens without his permission. Do we realize that sometimes we may be the ones with a duty to fulfill towards the family member we complain about? Spiritism then teaches us to appreciate more one another as part of a universal family that goes beyond matter. It's not easy. We're not saying it's easy. It's hard, actually. But can we see all the support we have in place for this existence, for us to succeed here. God never imposes trials beyond the strength of those who ask for them. He only allows trials that can be accomplished, says the Spirit St. Augustine. That's the Spirit St. Augustine, a superior spirit, who's saying that. So he knows what he's talking about. And the spirits, they teach us that God sometimes allows us to be repaid with ingratitude in order to test our perseverance in practicing the good. We're in a world of trials and expiations, after all. The spirit Neo Lucio, he tells us a story in the book Jesus in the Home through the medium Francisco Cândido Xavier. According to Neo Lucio, the members of Simon Peter's household, they were gathered around Jesus, listening to his gentle and persuasive voice as he was making comments on the sacred passages. So when Jesus ended his lesson, Peter's mother-in-law, she was troubled, and then she asked him, "Lord, what is our life in the home supposed to be after all?" Jesus gazed at her questioningly, implying that he wanted her to explain herself more fully. So she elaborated, "We began the endeavor amongst flowers, only to find ourselves gathering a bunch of thorns later on. At first, there is the promise of peace and understanding. However, stones and troubles soon appear." Seeing that she was on the verge of tears, Jesus responded quickly, "The home is a school for souls, the temple where divine wisdom gradually enables us to understand humankind more fully." We will repeat. The home is a school for souls. It is a temple. It is a temple. A temple where God, in its infinite wisdom, placed us all together so that we can understand humankind more fully. How can we understand humankind if we can't even understand that small group of people we call family? Jesus then asked Peter's mother-in-law, "What do you do first with lentils before serving them at mealtime?" She responded kind of hesitant, like, why is he asking me that? So she said, "Well, of course, Lord, I have to put them on the stove and cook them long enough. Then I have to season them in order to make them taste good." "And would you perchance serve raw dough at the table?" asked Jesus. Then she said, "Of course not. In order to make it edible, I would have to bake it in the oven. Otherwise..." Jesus then considered the following. In heaven too, there is a festive banquet where our sentiments must serve the Father's glory. And that goes back to what we were just talking about. We are agents of God's will. We are here to serve our Father through our acts of charity. We need to be patient and let the other mature or cook long enough. Like we do need to mature as well, so that we are ready for the seasoning. And what is that seasoning he's talking about here? His gospel. Jesus' gospel. Most of the time, says Jesus, the home is a holy cauldron or the preparatory oven. What may seem to us like affliction or suffering in the home is actually a resource for the spirit. The soul that is awakened to the Lord's will receives the most enlightening blessings from its renewing struggles. Because only by living with others in the home, by studying aspirations and inclinations unlike our own, and by observing the defects of others and putting up with them, can we learn to overcome our own imperfections. Home is like a preparatory oven. The challenges we face within our family group, they are important resources for the soul, for our soul, who begs for liberation from the past. If the soul has decided to awaken from the pure materialistic illusions, it will see and receive the most enlightening blessings, as it will understand that there is much more to life than the short span of time we spend together in only one incarnation. There is much more. And look how interesting. Only by living with others in the home, only when studying, observing the personal challenges and moral vices of our relatives and putting up with them, we will learn to overcome our own imperfections. How many times are we invited to practice mercy, charity at home? How many times are we invited to forgive, to listen? How many times? So we incarnate in the family we need for our moral improvement. Reincarnation brings the same characters from yesterday's dramas and conflicts back to the earth. These characters, they change roles for the readjustment, learning through challenges and conflicts the respect and discipline that are necessary for liberation from the dark past, from that obscure past that keeps torturing us. Haven't you ever noticed how quickly a person's life passes by? Continues our Lord Jesus. The life of the body, it is much like that of a flower. In the morning, it releases a fragrance. At night, it withers. Our home, the home, is a brief course on the fraternity we will enjoy in the life eternal. It is a brief course. The suffering and natural conflicts within its walls are lessons. Look at that. That's Jesus saying, our model, our guide, the purest spirit that has been on earth. The spirit God sent to this planet to guide us, to instruct us, to show us the path to moral transformation. He said that. He's asking us to be patient, to understand that it is just a brief course, that we need to learn to live in the home with our relatives, that we need to learn to respect one another, seeing everything that happens to us as lessons, as opportunities to grow, to develop, to acquire important values for the immortal being that we are. So the challenges, they are important lessons for us. After all, we are living in a world of trials and expiations. We are not here on vacation. We truly wish that, but we are not. We are here to work, and it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Our lives are filled with great opportunities to work, to transform ourselves, to get better. These difficulties are the resources that will make us grow towards that final objective, And what is the final objective for all of us? It is perfection. We will be like Jesus one day. We learn that he's our guide. He's our goal. He is where we are going to get eventually. If we put into work his lessons, if we truly take this opportunity, like so many other people did in the past, we can see so many examples of Christians, of moral persons who have walked on this planet. And we can be like them too. Their most valuable teaching was through example, and not just by saying random words or trying to convert people. No, it was by example, by their actions. Our actions speak much more than our mouths. So we can consider our family environment as a permanent lab where its members, they can work on their feelings and emotions, providing them with the right dosage, managing them safely for a better outcome. We don't necessarily live in a perfect family, as we are far from perfect, but we live in the group where our evolutional needs are met. Once again, we incarnate in the family we need for our moral improvement. In the home, we will work our differences and conflicts with each other based on mercy, tolerance, compassion, to replace the less happy memories and emotions in our spiritual archives. And we will reincarnate in the same group as many times as needed until we truly transform our feelings for one another. And the ties that unite us, especially those that connect parents and children, they are not broken. Not even when there are conflicts between both sides. No, they're not broken. Conflicts must inevitably be worked on in these or other lifetimes, once again, until the feelings are transformed and mutual affection is acquired. The spirits, they teach us that gentle and challenging family members, therefore, they proceed from a previously outlined schedule from the divine providence. So there is a schedule outlined by God. Can we understand that? He carefully planned our existence. We probably, most likely, reunited with his family members before incarnating. We made plans. We cried. We probably argued a little as well. But we agreed that the best solution was to return to the earth and work together to transform all that hatred into love. So let us not be the ones to say, oh, I'll leave it for the next incarnation because this relationship is broken. I don't feel like trying to fix it in this lifetime. No, let's not waste our time with that. Let us try to do our best here and now, as we don't know what it'll be like later. If we received such a trial now, it is because this is the right time to handle it. Let us take the first step towards our liberation. It's our own liberation. And understanding that God, he doesn't make any mistakes. Let's, once and for all, acknowledge our spiritual nature, understanding that we are spirits. We are experiencing multiple lifetimes in multiple bodies until we reach perfection. We will only be truly free We will only be truly free and happy once we love one another. As Jesus once said, our family, it is much bigger than we think. And it definitely goes beyond blood ties, way, way beyond. If we study Spiritism a little, if we pay attention to all the lectures, we will see, we will learn that. As the Spirit Emmanuel says in our Daily Bread, chapter 117, titled In the Family, by Francisco Cândido Xavier, how can we be benefactors for 100 or 1,000 people if we have not yet learned to serve 5 or 10? Because sometimes we have that feeling within us, or the urge to help humankind and to do great things. But the greatest thing we can do is to support our family, to help those who are close to us. It doesn't make sense that I'm so nice to people outside my family group, but I'm a horrible person at home, does it? Who am I for real? This is a very important teaching from Emmanuel. How can we help like 100 or 1,000 people if we're not helping people at home? Oh, my friends, if you knew all the ties that in your present life bind you to previous ones, if you could grasp the multitude of relationships that connect people to one another for their mutual progress, you would admire even more the wisdom and goodness of the Creator, who allows you to live again and again to reach Him in the end, says the Protector Spirit in the Gospel according to Spiritism. Oh, if only we knew. We study the doctrine, we hear on the lectures or during the discussions in our study groups. But do we truly accept that as something real? Do we truly accept the Spiritist teachings when it comes to family and all the connections we have? This is something to think about. This is something to discuss, to talk about. We can always pray. We can ask for guidance. The good spirits are always by our sides. Like we said, we're never alone. So we truly hope, my friends, that our lecture today brought some light to this topic. We, of course, we recommend the reading of books such as The Gospel According to Spiritism, The Spirit's Book, to learn more about this very important topic to us, that is family and family ties according to the Spiritist doctrine. So here's our gratitude for your patience, for listening to us so patiently and kindly. And we wish you the most wonderful reflections this weekend in the light of Spiritism at the 8th Toronto Spiritist Weekend. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Thiago. Beautiful message you shared with us today. Now we have some questions, and the first person who's going to ask you is Pamela. Pamela, please.
Hi, Thiago. Thank you very much. I have a friend that has a very difficult relationship with her parents. And that she should accept and keep trying to endure and improve her relationship with her parents, even though it's a toxic relationship, or she should move on with her life?
That's a really good question. The Spiritist doctrine, it offers us very powerful resources for us to overcome our challenges and to deal with difficult situations. We cannot tell her what to do, But what we learn with Spiritism is that we can always try to improve ourselves. And the first thing that every Spiritist should be doing at home is the practice of the Gospel according to Spiritism, which consists of studying passages of Jesus' teaching on the Gospel according to Spiritism, because the enlightenment from the Gospel practice will help bring more harmony to our souls, to our homes. The Spirit guides will come to our aid and will inspire us with good thoughts, embracing us with their love. Everyone has their moments, their own time to awaken, but it's important to know we are not alone. The Spiritist Center is at our disposal with public lectures, study groups to help us understanding more about ourselves. It also offers fraternal assistance chats that will certainly guide us through these difficult times. Because the Spiritism, like we said, teaches us that we are not alone. And if we can, we must look for help. And the Spiritist Center, following Kardec's guidance and Jesus' teaching, will have the resources in place to support us. So when we study Spiritism, we learn that some struggles, some difficulties, they can come from previous lives. But in reality, it doesn't matter. In reality, we need to understand that we can learn from every single aspect of our lives, from every single thing that happens to us. And we hope that by studying the doctrine, we will find the answers to our most inner question. Yeah.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Rosangela. Rosangela, you can ask your question. Hi, Rosangela, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Tiago, for your time. An amazing lecture. It's so easy to understand you. My question is about the feeling of guilty that sometimes it comes when there is this difficulty to live with someone, with a family member. So it comes to a point that there is a lot of abuse, like mental, emotional, with words, and so on. And come this time that you just ask yourself, do I stay or do I leave? And even though you understand the needs of to go on with this relationship and do your better, but that comes this feeling of guilt. How would you advise about how to do with this feeling?
So you're asking how to do with the feeling of guilt?
Yeah.
Well, if you find the answer, you let me know. But what we learn with the doctrine is that the feeling of guilt, it can open doors to many other challenges and difficulties that are not even part of our plan, of the plan for this existence, because this feeling connects us with other minds that shares the same heavy burden, and guilty, it's not healthy for us. It can harm us and it can paralyze us often, right? So it stops us from seeing the reality and from seeing things how they truly are. When it comes from difficult relatives and the most difficult situations at home, of course, we can always look for help. Spiritism teaches that we shouldn't be torturing ourselves, of course, right? Because there's a limit for everything. But only yourself will be able to tell what happens in your home and how to deal with the situation. What you can do, what we can do is look for help. for support. Sometimes the therapy aligned with the support of the Spiritist Center, like we just talked about, so we can work out those differences. Otherwise, it could keep getting worse and worse, right? So we have the resources from the earth and from the spirit world that, when combined, can do great things to help us improve our relationship with our family members and to help us accept ourselves better, getting rid of that feeling of guilt.
Thank you. We have another question from Fernanda this time, and I'm going to ask it is, how can I change that difficult family member?
Don't we all want that, right? Because whenever we complain about a family member or about people, we usually want to change them because we want them to be like we picture. But why the urge to change someone when we have so much to change within ourselves? We have a lot to change, a lot to transform. So we learn with the doctrine, with Spiritism, that we cannot change other people. Also, who are we to change them? Sometimes I wonder if it isn't our pride speaking, like when we suppose we can change people around us so they meet our expectations that even ourselves cannot meet. What we can do as spiritists, as human beings, as spirits, what we can do is make a positive impact in the world by truly changing ourselves. And how can we change ourselves? Question 919 of the Spirit's book, Know Thyself. That's a great inner transformation guide we have there.
Thanks. And we have a last question now. I think so. I think it's the last one. Yeah. What if we try it and still couldn't do everything we were supposed to do in this existence? So we came with a plan. So what if we tried and we couldn't?
Well, first, it's kind of difficult for us to know everything we are supposed to do, right? We come here with a forgetfulness of the past, but we have like the feeling, the sensation that there are certain things that we need to accomplish. If we are tasked with certain trials, we are capable of completing them. We talked about that, and we learned with the doctrine as well. However, our primary task, our main task in this planet, is to leave the world better than when we arrived. You said something important. We tried. It is imperative that we try, that we give our best to overcome our challenges, especially those that are brought in our homes, as we don't know what the next existence will be like. That's why we're talking about, no, we shouldn't be leaving that for the next life. We should try to overcome the difficulties now. However, if we tried all that we could, if we tried everything, we did our part. If the other family member, if the other person or situation, whatever, didn't do theirs, the divine providence will see that. If we try to be as gentle as possible, as merciful as possible, if we try to be loving, caring, patient, God will see that. We are here to work for God through acts of charity. If we did our best, our Father, our dear God, will know for sure.
Thank you. That's it for the question.
Obrigada.
Thank
you.
Obrigada.
Thank you very much, Thiago, for this amazing hour of great teachings. Whoa, we are really have to evaluate our relationship with our family members and understand if I am a spiritual or biological member in those people's lives. What a responsibility. Now we know, and it's very much our responsibility to build those relationships for a better and spiritual level. Victor is the spirit. Our third lecture is with Victor G. Victor is our spirit since birth. and is found and current president of the Seeds of Light, Edmonton Spirit Society. Since 2018, Victor has been volunteering as the director with the Canadian Spirit Council. Currently, he coordinates the CSC Communication Committee and support the CSC on the International Spirits Council Communication Committee. Peter has a profound passion for promoting the study, dissemination, and practice of the spiritism in Canada. His passion resulted in a contribution of several success communication projects across the country. Victor is going to talk about My Beloved Kids, adoption. The adoption child is always the noblest training in the field of paternity. Perhaps rare service on earth are so rewarding in terms of eternal life. T-shirt Simonati, the microphone is open for you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Lucy, for your words. I also want to thank the Toronto Spiritist Weekend for organizers for inviting me to be here today, and really extend my gratitude to each of the centers involved with this beautiful project that is it's been going on for so long now, and really inspire, I think, many of the other centers around Canada to perhaps thinking in some sort of similar type of collaboration. I want also to thank Marcia Lee to be the person bringing the invitation and really doing that difficult job of simultaneous translation. Thank to Andre and Thiago Leite, sorry, for this beautiful moments that and reflections that both of you shared. Really touched. Also, Kleber, thank you for the energy that you provided with your music. I really was trying to put myself beside you in that moment, really to perceive all the tones of your guitar that sometimes the communication tool that we have cannot quite come up, but it was beautiful. And thank to each one of you. To me, it is a great pleasure. I'm really delighted to be here today with you to talk about Jesus, to talk about all the doctrine that we so much love, and to talk about adoption. So I'll try to see if I can share here my screen. Can you all see?
Yes, Victor, I can.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So one thing that I found interesting when I was reflecting about Andre's and Thiago Leite lecture was that to me it was very interesting how those three topics will come together. Yeah, I really feel connected with the message, and I feel that both of those lectures will help a deeper understanding of what is the proposal here for today. And what we are suggesting is to really first start with a context of what this adoption means, more like trying to understand the magnitude of that situation around the globe, and then really share some reflections that Spiritism brings to us. And then with an example, perhaps we'll do this exercise of bringing the meaning of those reflections to our day-to-day life. And we'll finish with Jesus' last teaching. So when we think about adoption, the first thing that one may think about or may ask himself is that why adoption? the child population makes up to approximately 2.2 billion. So that's out of the more now dated number of 7 billion world population. But just to give an idea, out of this 2.2 billion, about 143 to 210 million of those children are orphans. And the regions that are most impacted by this situation are in Africa or Asia or Middle East and Latin America. There are countries such as India, China, Nigeria, that the orphans, the population, it ranges from 12 to 21 million. And some other countries like Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Zambia, the orphans accounts to 20% of their total population of children. And the question that one can come to one mind is that okay, so what is a child's right? In terms of social understanding, one would agree that it is the child's birthright to live, to get education, healthcare, shelter, protection against physical and psychological abuses. And when we look at this map, it tells a story here. It tells us that the situation that we perhaps experience in Canada, which is a great country, it's probably pretty far from the reality around the globe. So this color, the color red and the colored regions are the place where the worst places for in terms of children rights, and they often also tell the story of what the conditions of orphans and the number of orphans. So bringing that into perspective and understanding the magnitude of the problem, we now look at Spiritism. And in the question 5, more specific, in the question 582, Allan Kardec asked the spirits, can parenthood be considered a mission? In which the spirits answer that it is, without any doubt, a mission. And at the same time, a very great duty that involves parents more than they might think concerning their responsibility for the future. God has placed children under the care of their parents so that they may guide them on the path of the good, and has facilitated their task by giving children a frail and delicate organization that renders them accessible to all sorts of impressions. However, there are those who are more concerned with training their trees in their orchards and making them produce fine fruit than with training the character of their children. If the children fail due to their neglect, they will have to bear the punishment, and the sufferings of their children will come back to them in a future life because they did not do what was incumbent on them for their children's advancement on the path of the good. Now, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this answer, the answer that the spirits provided, trying to understand some of the symbols and the virtues that the spirits are talking here. But here is where I think the light starts shining, and how those speeches that we have before from Andre and from Tiago come all together, right? So here the spirits are talking about duty, and we'll talk more about duty. And Tiago highlighted this virtue quite a bit during his presentation as well, right? So we're gonna dive a little bit deeper on that as well. But here we have also the spirits talk about punishment. They talk about sufferings, right? And again, then we go back to Andre's speech and in early on, and we see that relationship very clearly. So the reflections that were shared back then will help us fully understanding in a deeper level this answer as well. One question that one may promptly ask after reading question 582 is that what should be the parent's role to a spirit initiating its incarnation? What is the role, right? We will reflect on this question in 3 areas. The first, observation. Second, effective application. And the third one, the moral duty. Thinking about observation from a purely corporal perspective, one may think that the information, over information for a social adjustment is the desired outcome for our children, right? However, and Andre also touched on this a little bit, is that, however, from an immortalist perspective, Tiago also touched on this, which is the real perspective as we understand within the doctrine, within Spiritism. The children are for us as a galaxy is for the astronomer. To observe them and comprehend their psychological and emotional mechanisms, their moral acquisitions, their temper, their nature, is the primary educating exercise. The child receives then moral propositions, and these reach the core of their brain information. And some information, they are definitely not fully understood by the child because their brain cannot entirely register the core of the idea. But guess what? The spirit can. And that's why the information is repeated, repeated, and repeated. It is not hearing once or twice that the child will observe the ideas being expressed. But that is the fact that they are more prompt to receive through the adult behavior. That's what brings meaning to the words. So but the interesting thing about this area of the observation is that if this is about the adult loving observance towards the child, we can't neglect that that is also the phase of the child observing the verbal and especially the non-verbal communication of the adult, right? So the adult expresses its understanding, explaining the child how things are and work. The child, however, will understand it only according to, or not only, but mainly according to the adult's behavior. How about the effective application? The child then, let's recap at some of the informations that Spiritus bring to us, and we all know. So the child is starting a new incarnation, or he is starting a new reincarnation, better saying, right? This is a new experience, right? But they are an immortal spirit. So if they are immortal spirit, they would bring also what? Their achievements, their challenges, and their limitations, right? And what does that mean? In the didactic teaching moments, those moments that the parent is teaching the children, in this coexistence, during the verbal explanations, during the examples, the child sees and experiences. The spirit, the immortal spirit, will start acquiring a new interpretation of life and reality. This interpretation will then start getting sharper and specific as the adult allows them to comprehend through affection the information being taught. And here is a key word and a key virtue in the process of education: affection. Right? Natural question then is, how does the comprehension through affection works? So the child goes through their challenges, their insecurities, their uncertainties during life, right? If you think about it, the challenges itself is neither good nor bad, right? These are only challenging experiences. So what happened in the intimacy of a child is that the experience can transform into something productive for them or not. Right? Affection will embrace the child, especially during these challenging times. When a child is loved and supported, to comprehend its role as a spirit that deserves to learn, that has the merit of becoming an apprentice of life, such that they connect to their power, their capability, their capacity of solving their challenges. They establish an affective relationship with their experiences. This, my friends, is the core of this process. To support the child to perceive an affective relationship with their experiences. And how does that get processed? How is it possible to offer an affective relationship with the experiences of life to a child? How can we offer this to a spirit transitioning through a childhood? To help understand some of these questions, we'll perhaps use a simple example. So if we imagine the following situation: a 4 to 5 year old kid, right? Perhaps was running, she tripped and fell in the ground, right? And had that immediate reaction of looking to his mom, right? So what does that mean? What does that look mean? Right? And again, this is an example that, so we're going to a broader concept to an example to try to come back and then understand the bigger, broader concept, right? So it's just an example, okay? So she looks at the mom, trying to understand what happened to her. Right? This is an experience that she was not expecting at all. Right? Falling is a physical manifestation, right, of an unexpected experience. And what does an unexpected experience means to the child psychology? So what's gonna be telling them is the mother's verbal and non-verbal actions that will really inform what happened, right? So if the mom, so let's imagine the situation. So the mom looking back at her, and now the mom is scared. It's angry, start yelling at her, right? Saying that, for example, she or he does not pay attention. That the child will, so what happens is that the child will capture that experience as being danger, as being something that's It's not good, right? But the child is in the ground, is feeling pain, is emotionally challenged. And even after all that, the adult is using aggression or aggressive words towards her or him. This attitude, in a deeper level, it frustrates the hope for embracement. So instead, the child will feel abandoned. And if the spirit in its infants have this frustrated experience over and over again, what will happen? So the feeling of being abandoned may be amplified. And that's throughout the daily challenging experiences. Right? So this simple example, it illustrates how could the feeling of being abandoned be aggravated, since the adult, the mom in this case, is, and we all, and all parents are, the archetype of the creator itself in their lives. So this, in a deeper level, will distance the spirit reincarnating further from the divine laws. In a deeper level, it may reflect the feeling of being abandoned by God. And let's just pause for a minute here and be a little bit careful, because we should not understand that that this will be the result of only one experience, right? This happens throughout life, throughout the childhood, many and many experiences, reinforcing that aggression, that bad, that perception of the experience over and over again. Right? And the other thing to say here is that this also does not mean that we should blame or even consider that parents shall not make mistakes. That's definitely not the case. That's definitely not the intention. There's no perfect education with imperfect educators. We shall say, and what we shall say, however, is that if the feeling of love is amplified towards an existential caring, the parents can understand the role of that experience in an immortal spirit in evolution. Right? That's exactly what love can operate in the relationship. Understand and comprehend, feeling its role on humans' relationship. When we have existential attention with our children, we feel the attention and we occupy ourselves with them. We want to understand their joys, their sorrows, their achievements, their failures. We want to understand how they are operating and how deep inside they are comprehending or not the divine laws. We are attentive to what they go through in their intimacy. Our attention shall be caring and loving, but also assertive and proactive. This is a set of proactive actions that lead us to observe how these spirits momentarily, our children, is working in their new bodily experience in the face of course, the daily life situations, right? How they are inserting themselves on their journey towards spiritual acquisitions or not. So in the example of the mom, how could she act perhaps differently, right? So the child again fell, looked at the mom, right? So if at the moment, the mom look at them with expression of encouragement and confidence, warmly welcoming them, the child understands that unexpected experiences very differently. The child can still cry and very likely will cry because it's feeling that pain. This is a psychological or sorry, a physiological reaction or feeling, right? But the experience will not be intensified in the same way as if the mom would have expressed the dread or fear. It is, my friends, in the experience itself that the parents will direct it towards a virtuous or a traumatic understanding by the children. Trauma and virtues are not interpretation that the children have. It is a co-interpretations that the children have from the adults in their lives. This concept can be amplified broadly. If the adult brings the insipid reality within itself, and here perhaps could be an application of the passage that Andre reminded us in the early on, right? Being the salt of earth, right? So if being insipid reality, bringing that, it will be transferred to the child. However, if the adult brings loving reality within itself, virtuous principles will be transferred to the child. And the child will understand the experience very differently. And not only the consequences, but also the experiences in itself. For instance, bringing it to morality, falling, standing up, losing, winning. What are those? They're expressions that human being will have in their life and in their relationships. What is then the parent's role to the child, if not of the one making all effort to best become the conscious mirror of the divine laws? To become a mirror, comprehending that the function of bringing the reality of life to a child is more vigorous and causes greater impressions than one could perceive. Parents bring within the capacity to allow their children to understand what is happening in their intimacy. And here we say parent or adult or the significant adult, right? So how about moral duty? The child education, as we have been reflecting together, is required loving observation, requires affection. And that's only possible if the parents' hearts are willing to progress on the basis of a moral duty to develop unconditional love. And our friend Andre earlier on also talked about unconditional love in a deeper level, in the more absolute level. And then we ask ourselves, how can we develop unconditional love? And many parents probably will say and feel that they feel unconditional love, right? Many parents will probably say that, for example, that they will give their lives for their little ones, and we have no doubt that this is real. But what can we understand here? What is the concept that we are reflecting? Beforehand, it is fundamental to understand that unconditional love, it's only possible to be expressed by the unconditional loving behavior. The unconditional loving behavior is learned, reflected, and felt. Otherwise, the expression of an unconditional love does not reach the comprehension of the child. That happens through the interior process of self-welcoming and welcoming others, acceptance, comprehension, education through moral duty. It is a fundamental tool building that relationship parents-child. And how is it possible to truly support the formation of the personality of the child, neglecting the sense of moral duty? So the moral duty is the beacon. It's like a beacon. With it, the human being comprehend what they do and where they go. But without it, human being has no existential course. Often, parents that are not offering the duty to unconditional love is because it requires work. That's the most common cause. Unfortunately, it still is. They may believe that things will accommodate itself. How often have we heard, oh, things will take care of? It's only solely with time, things will magically resolve. That's not how it happens. Things does not just happen so with time. It is not soul time that will teach the child or the youth the noble functions of their lives. Parents are invited to organize themselves in actions of intellect moral duties, fulfilling their duty in the education of the child or the youth. And then we ask ourselves, okay, so what is parents' conscious duties? Here are some for our reflection. The duty to teach them self-love, the duty to teach self-comprehension, self-acceptance, and the duty to teach love, comprehension, and acceptance of others. Now we turn to the message from Lazarus in chapter 14, item 7 of the Gospel according to the Spiritism, where the benefactor will guide us through a deeper journey, through understanding what means moral duty, what it means these duties. And he says that the duty is an individual's moral obligation, first towards him or herself, and towards others immediately thereafter. Duty is the law of life. It is found in the smallest details as well as in the most elevated acts. Sorry, let me just come back here a little bit. So duty is contrary, if you think about these two messages, is contrary to the seductions of self-interest. That's where the relationship between required work comes to, right? Its victories have no witness, as the benefactor says. Its victories has no witness. Its failures undergo no repression. People's inner duty is left to their free will. The sting of conscience, the guardian of inner rectitude, warns and upholds them, but it is held back often powerless before the sophistries of passions. When faithfully obeyed, the duty of the heart uplifts people. But how is such duty determined? Where does it begin? Where does it end? Well, the benefactor also tells us the duty begins precisely at the point in which you threaten your neighbor's happiness or peace of mind. Let's think about this. My duty begins precisely in the point in which I threaten my neighbor's happiness or peace of mind. It ends at the limit. It ends at the limit you would not want to see surpassed regarding yourselves. This is very interesting, right? Very interesting, very deep message here. One simple way that a very good friend once expressing his understanding about the sentence, he put it, and I sort of like it and brought to me for easier reference. It's like thinking as a fence, as your backyard fence, right? So you have this backyard fence, and this backyard fence is determined by your conscious thinking. And conscious here I'm using in a very deep level of understanding, in the same level where we say that the laws, the divine laws, are present in our conscience. So, and what is very interesting here is that whenever we go through some egoic movements and let the egoic movements within ourselves just to operate or to express in our actions what we are really doing with that fence, guess what? We're forcing to change it. So we are either pushing out our fence and trying to get a responsibility for something that's really not ours, or we're doing the opposite, pushing inwards and let what is our responsibility outside as if it was not ours. But guess what? That really doesn't really change the fence. The fence is where it is, right? And the question that we do to make ourselves is that how do you know what really is your fence? Well, guess what? It's only through self-knowledge, right? So how can we know without self-knowledge, right? So the duty is the most beautiful, as the benefactor said, laurel of reason. It depends on it like a child depends on its mother. Humans, we all should love duty. It provides the soul with the strength it needs for its development. Duty grows and radiates under a more elevated form that each of the higher stages of humanity, at the different stages of humanity, individuals' moral obligation towards God, our moral obligation towards God, never ceases. They should reflect the virtues of the eternal. The great responsibility of the parents is to approximate then the children to God. But then again, to accomplish it, the first thing to do is to approximate ourselves to God. Your children, or our children, are immortal spirits, right? That the parents receive or choose in the process of co-creation to collaborate with God, conducting the children to God, brothers in humanity to the path of good, through the formation of the character. In this mission, parents will respond to everything that happens with their children as long as it is within their responsibility, within their fence. Now, my friends, allow me to share a story that perhaps will help us bring some of those meanings further towards our day-to-day life and inspire us. This is a true story. She was just 4 years old. And when crossing a highway, she was run over by a truck. The little brother who was with her died. And she was in the hospital for days, weeks, months. Nobody came to complain. And Quota, as it was her name, ended up staying there in the hospital. They taught her some things here and there so that she could go pay herself, right? And then what happened is that over time, she began to assist in the hospital with some services. More than 60 years have passed. No family, no home. She never knew what is or it was to call someone a mother, a brother, a dad. Then an employee newly hired in the hospital met her and felt sorry for her. So the information around in the hospital was that the hospital administration was looking for a temporary home for that lady. So the idea would be then to find a suitable place that that could support her. And Glaucia, the employee, offered to take her home. So she thought, well, after all, it will be just for a little bit, right? But guess what? The little turned into months, and which end up adding up, and after all, Glaucia finally understood that the lady would not leave her home. So she took certain steps. First, get a birth certificate, and then after that, file an adoption application. But very strangely, Glaucia found that she was in her early 30s, could not possibly adopt a 70-year-old woman. Legally, what she got was something like a permit for Quota to reside with her. And then Quota she has a mentality of a child. A child, again, who lived in an institution for many decades and had some really bad habits, requiring Glaucia's intensified effort to re-educate her. What is surprising about this lady is that she started to use the magic word mother with all the joy. In the face of any difficulty, like any child, she calls her mother, Glaucia. Mother who surrounded her with affection and protection, who offered a home, who taught her that love exists above and beyond blood ties. An angel who has come into her life. And we ask ourselves, what reasons will God have for having united these creatures? Only He knows. What we realize is that there is love in that relationship. An extraordinary woman who gives everything that love can offer and say with all the letters and with all her gesture that the motherhood of the heart is much more vigorous than that of the body. God bless all the hearts that open to welcome the children of the flesh of others, of the different races, of different ages. And if we reflect about it, we can all consider ourselves adopted children of each other. That's because true parenthood proceeds from God, the divine parent, who created us for the eternal glory. Now, let's turn to that moment where Jesus was at the cross. And at his feet was Mary. Looking at his son. And she asked herself, why? She feels a gentle touch on her shoulder. There is John the Apostle. And felt deeply inside, looking at her son and asking, why? Why did they do that to you? To my son? Jesus turned to her and said, Mother, there is your son. And directing himself in a special way with a slightly nod to the apostle, he said, Son, there is your mother. The apostle in that moment understood that in the future, the clarity of the kingdom of God would reveal to men the necessity of the cessation of all selfishness, and that in the sanctuary of every heart, there should be the most abundant quota of love, all to all the needy in this world. And that is what we pray for this planet. Mothers will be mothers of all. Dads will be dads of all. Parental love will be adopting one another because humankind will adopt the universal love as Jesus taught us. Following the footsteps of so many that understood the last teaching, like Mary, that adopted all of us as her child. May God bless our parents.
Thank you, Victor. Now we have the questions. We have two questions for you today. Thank you very much for your beautiful message. The first question goes, Pamela is going to ask. Please, Pamela.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. My question is, does being an orphan is a part of the reincarnation plan? And if yes, what are the values that it's gonna, add to that particular spirit?
Thank you for the question. The spirits will tell us, and Tiago touched on this a little bit as well, about the reincarnation plan. And what they tell us is that this plan is a very carefully made plan that involves a team of well-known.
You could take that.
Sorry.
Shall I?
Sorry, is there maybe someone? Okay, thanks. So it involves a team of spirits that's with a profound knowledge in the areas of psychology, family psychology, of your story, and you have this meeting. Of course, this is in general situations, right? We are generalizing here concepts. And in this meeting, it happens sometimes, often, with the person that is reincarnating, and there is established the reincarnatory plan, right? Now, could a adoption, could a orphan situation be part of a reincarnatory plan? Yes, it could. It could very well be. Now, the second question is even more interesting. So why? So if it is, why? Is that for suffering? Is that for the spirit to suffer? Well, if we think it is for suffering, if you think it is for bad, then we have to assume that God is bad, which is against the attribute, the divine attribute of God is sovereignly good and just, right? So it cannot be for a bad reason. So that's come back to, okay, so what's the reason then, right? And this deep question would often only be able to be fully answered by the spirit. Why? Because when we look at reincarnations and the reincarnatory plan, we can perhaps look at a cross, just like Jesus invited us to, each one of us, grab your cross and follow me. So in that symbol, what can we understand about the cross and what that relationship could have with our reincarnation and reincarnatory plan? We can think that the vertical of that cross is our existential purpose in this incarnation. The horizontal, we can think that is the collective circumstances of life, of that plan, right? And how we can, okay, so what is exactly our purpose in life? Because purpose in life, it's often also understood as a very broad and difficult to reach concept. It's not. It's a very specific concept. It is one or two virtues that the spirit is invited to develop in that incarnation. That's what the existential purpose is in our incarnation. Now, virtues, we got to remember, they do not work alone. They also do not never work against each other, right? So when we're talking about developing one virtue, we are not neglecting the fact that by doing so, we are bringing others with it, okay? But there is one clear virtue. And what is the invitation for us is to develop that virtue in each circumstance, in each horizontal area of our life. We are being invited to develop that virtue. Now, why I'm doing that long answer for that very deep question? Because what is the relationship of that experience to that soul? It could be very complex answer. It could be related, because very often will be what? Related to the existential purpose of that soul, right? Which can be more related, for example, to the value of bringing the family ties to a sanctuary role that it has. It could be related to other factors as well that a fast study would probably not let us understand. Too long answer for it, but it's a very interesting and deep question to think about.
Thank you for your answer. Now we have a question from Ivan. Ivan, are you ready?
Yes. Can you guys hear me? Okay, Victor, thanks very much for your presentation. We understood very well the responsibility and the mission of the role of adoptive parents. But what to say about the biological mother that without any money to survive, and for the love of her children, abandon and send them for adoption. Is this mom failing about her maternal mission, not trusting the divine providence?
Another very difficult question. Thanks. Let's reflect together in this one. It is always challenging for anyone, especially for us spiritists, that in the majority of the cases, we are souls that in previous experience failed miserably, and often using the name of Jesus to blame and push our selfish interest. To look at situations like this and navigate in this line that differentiate between blaming and responsibility of others, right? And that's not the intention here. Absolutely not. We have a profound respect to anyone free will, and we could never know what goes through someone in that situation, because I never experienced it. So it's not the intention to blame. But you are correct when you say that that there is a responsibility, right? There might be a responsibility. There might be a responsibility that the providence, the divine providence, brought to the soul for the children to be in that family. I think I'll leave it there, my friend. So
thank you. So we have one more question from Rosangela. Rosangela, are you ready to ask?
Yeah.
Sorry, Rosangela, I was going to ask you to unmute with you.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Victor, thank you so much for touching such a delicate topic. I think that I just make a comment, because it just based on your last answer to Eva, it just gave me the answer. So for me, it's like there is such a great difficulty for some to accept a child that is not blood related. And we understand that the education that will be provided to this human being will be the same as an adopter or not. So the education has to be the same, or should be the same. And many times this union is actually just another meeting between those human beings, parents and the child, and probably the whole entire family. So this is a God plan. And so my question before was just why there is such a difficulty for some couples or for some people just think about, well, this is not my blood. And I just can't accept have a child that is not my blood. I don't know if you would have something to comment on that.
yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, Hosanna, you didn't. You're not showing here for me, but yeah, thank you for the question. Oh, there you go. Much better when you see. Yes, you were correct, and then we go back to the unconditional love, the concept of unconditional love. When we allow ourselves to go or to navigate in this area of differentiating one another, in this case that you brought one kid that was a biological kid and an adopted kid. In a deeper level, what we are doing is really it's putting condition to the love that I feel, right, towards the other. And that's interesting because and if we think about it, and let us all reflect about it, unconditional love, and of course, as Thiago also mentioned before, and we saw in the presentation, and when we reflect about the duty, it starts with the self-love, right? So unconditional love in the purest form would not differentiate it even between the love that I feel, for example, for you. Think about it. Let's think about it. Let's really try to imagine a moment where we all could feel unconditional love towards one another. Like the love, the most abundant love that you can think of, like the love, I don't know, for your mother, your dad, whatever. Take a person that you love, that you most think and say, okay, what is the most precious feeling that I have towards someone? Think about that person. Now think about feeling the same love on here. You see, it's relative to your capability of feeling that love. And we're not talking here more about a love, for example, that Christ feels for us. And think about feeling the same love for everybody. Everybody. That's in the level that we have of understanding of unconditional love. It's unconditional love to others, to brothers and sisters. So how can we truly differentiate our feeling from an adopted to a biological, if not through imposing conditions on the bodily relationship that ties to that experience, right? It's a deeper relationship, right, between souls when we see ourselves out as immortal spirits, right? And one thing that I would like to, since we are here, and you mentioned, I think that about guilty, I would like to share a perspective, and I think I don't think it's different in itself from the perspective that Andre brought to us, but it has perhaps a slightly different form to it. When I understand, when I look at us at a guilty, at the feeling of guilty, we see it as and this is coming from a transcendent psychology. So even the research is touching on this, some of this. So there are whole areas, for example, like psychology of virtues, that will help us having this understanding. That's where it's coming from. So it's more for a reference. When we look at those, at that concept, what we'll see is that this is an egoic movement. Remember when we saw that virtues, they go together, hand on hand, and they're not isolated, and they never contradict to each other. And virtues, we use it to illuminate egoic movements that we still bring. So egoic movements, in the way it's understood, it is the non-presence of the virtue within ourselves. Okay, so that's different than ego. Ego is a tool that will help guide, but let's just put this to the side for now. So guilty is considered an egoic movement and has three bases or three other egoic movements that forms it. It's a self-judgment, self-condemnation, and self-punishment. So the way it is understood is that, for example, a case of a suicidal often relates to the feeling of guilty. So for example, it could be that the person is feeling, okay, this, what I've done, it's terrible. I am a bad person. That's the self-judgment. You are judging yourself. Then you condemn yourself. I do not deserve to live. Then you self-punish. I will die. I will kill myself. So this is an example of guilty, but guilt can happen in many different levels, right? So this, in the way it's understood, it does not help enlighten the soul. But the process of enlightening the soul it also has 3 steps, and it's very seen in Paul of Tarsus. In the moment that he sees Jesus in the path of Damascus, he doesn't spend a second in guilty. Judas did, and then he committed suicide. Now, not Paul of Tarsus. What he does is different. He goes through a feeling the responsibility for the mistakes done, expiating. What is expiating is the process of extracting the purity, extracting piation, purity, from the Latin. So, and what does that mean in a spiritist understanding? Is developing the virtue that led to that mistake, and then it ends in the last stage, which is oh man, it's escaping the correct word, but it's building.
Reparation.
Sorry?
Reparation. So
reparation, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, reparation. So yeah, so you see, it's a two very different movements. So the more we spend time in the guilty, we are still not developing the virtue that goes through sincere regret. It goes to that phase, but it's a regret. It's not guilty. So it's not heavy on us, right? But you do see the responsibility of that act, right? Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Well, people from the 6SD knows what he's talking about, right, guys? We just talked about this 4 steps. Sorry, arrependimento. In English, just called expiation and redemption.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that the questions are over now. So yeah, thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Lucio.
Thank you very much, Victor, for this amazing hour of great teaching. Wow, it was so much teaching to think about it, internalize, and put it into practice. Now that we have learned some great steps to take, we can no longer say that we don't know how to build a good and strong and timeless relationship. It's all about us now. It's our responsibility from now on. But wait, do not forget that tomorrow we will have more amazing information. Just a reminder, here is our agenda for the next few days.
That's great.
On the Spirit's Book, question 938, Allan Kardec gives his profound insights about disappointments, ingratitude, blind test, affections. Here's what he says. We want to thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for this amazing participation. Thank you very much for our fantastic speakers that we inspired with profound message. Thank you for amazing volunteers for the dedicated time spending and great creativity to make this 2021 TSW to happen. Thank you, God, Jesus, our spiritual mentors, and the enlightening spirits that embrace us with courage and certitude. The event was possible to happen. The positive message about building a strong, healthy relationship with everyone that is part in our lives is a must, which help us with our spiritual evolution. We thank you, God, for this amazing day and fantastic time with friends and now our new friends. And we are expanding our spiritual family. Now, we are going to say, see you tomorrow. Enjoy your evening and have one amazing night of sleep. Before our end, I will call Ivan Guerra for the final prayer. The microphone is open for you, Ivan. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow.
There we go. Thank you, Lucio, for the opportunity. I'm going to invite everybody right now to close your eyes and keeping yourselves connected with God. Let's pray together. Dear Father, thank you to give us this opportunity to be here today and for all the benevolent spirits that were here with us. Thanks for all inspirations and for all the learnings we have just received from our speakers and their seminars. We hope we could observe all the content discussed here today, and also we can put them in a practice in our daily lives. For each mind and heart that feels the presence of this meeting, we thank you. Only you truly know what we are setting out to accomplish today. We have an idea, a vision, hints, and daily instructions. We have talents, abilities, and time to work. However, only you see in perfect details the end of every beginning. Every project, every season, every life, nothing is ever in vain. For even mistakes and missteps are used for good. Dear Father, we pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our journey and show us how can we build a good relationship. So be it.
So be it. And now music, just to say goodbye. But tomorrow we can see everyone again. We can open the microphones if everyone wants to say something. Please feel free to do so. How was the event for you guys? For the ones that is still here with us? You can open the microphone. I believe you can do.
Now we can.
Now, yes. Thank you guys for everyone that make this event happening. I'm very pleased to participate, and I'm very happy. Thank you very much for everyone.
Clélia, estamos felizes que vocês estejam aqui conosco. Esperamos que as mensagens desse dia venha trazer, né, novas perspectivas, novos corações mais abertos, né, mentes mais harmoniosas, para a nossa própria saúde mental, emocional e tudo mais, né? E aí, com certeza que amanhã estaremos aqui esperando vocês às 9 da manhã, né? Então, tentar dormir mais cedo, não sei, estou energizada. Muito obrigada aos nossos intérpretes, a Eline, nós tivemos também, deixa eu ver os nomes aqui, gente, tanta gente envolvida, não tem ideia. Tivemos a Manuela e a Eline hoje conosco. Muito, muito, muito obrigada. Amanhã estaremos aqui com tópicos fantásticos, né, com o TSW Kids, falando sobre a mediunidade infantil, muito importante para o aprendizado de todos nós, não só aqueles que não têm filhos, né? Podemos ser tios, tias, amigos, amigas, né, de famílias que tenham e que precisam de ajuda. Teremos o Wagner Moura e teremos depois, então, o Rossandro.
Muito obrigado a todos.
Bom.
E uma boa noite.
Obrigado.
Obrigado. Muito bom.
Parabéns, galera.
Thank you
Parabéns
so much.
para toda a equipe. Foi extremamente gratificante. Até amanhã, gente. Bye, bye, galera. Tchau, tchau.
Amanhã tem mais.
Com certeza.
Tchau, tchau.
Tchau, tchau.
Tchau. Gente, que bênção, foi tudo ok. Eu com tanto nervoso da coisa aí do intérprete, nossa, funcionou maravilha. Uhul, my teamwork. Aí teve uma hora que eu vi que o telefone não parava, eu falei, Jesus, o que está acontecendo?